Before I say a brief prayer, I just want to take a moment for us to honor two individuals that we've lost in the city over the past couple weeks. Vince Matteo, who headed up the Chamber of Commerce for a long time in the city, who was a big force in a lot of different ways, and worked hard for the city and for the communities around us as well. And then Jessie Bloom just passed away. She was the first female elected mayor in the city of Williamsport back in the 80s. And she was a groundbreaker. I think a lot of us got to know both of them on a personal basis over the years. And I don't think anybody would disagree that they were both filled with vigor, with passion, and a love for this city and the people in it. So I'd like to just take a moment and honor them silently. And then I'll say a brief prayer for their families. Heavenly Father, Lord, as we think about these two people who affected so many for good things, Lord, and accomplished so much for the good of this community, we want to remember their families tonight. We pray for your comfort. We pray for your strength to carry them through these times of mourning, and then to lead them on with the good memories they have of these individuals that they knew so well, loved so well, and all the good things that they received from them. Lord, we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Randy. That was beautiful. Next on the agenda is approval of city council minutes. Any changes or questions? If not,
We need a motion.
can I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Mrs. Frank, can you take the vote?
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy, Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Limited courtesy of the floor. We have no one here tonight for that. Chris, is the mayor on the phone? Next item on the agenda is appointments and reappointments for the Water and Sanitary Authority. Mayor, are you present?
I'm here. Can you hear me, Councilwoman?
Yes, we can.
All right. Good evening, Vice President Katz, members of council, and the administration. What you have before you this evening is a reappointment and a new appointment to the Williamsport Municipal Water and Sanitary Authorities. The reappointment is Dr. Kent Trocki, who has been an upstanding member of the board for the last 5 years, and he has graciously agreed to serve another term. And then the new appointment is Katie De Silva, who I believe is there this evening in person. And she has also graciously agreed to serve on the authorities board. And she comes to us recently retired from Clinton County as a planner. She also has experience with their sewer authority up there. So she does have a background in this arena, and some technical skills and experience there as well. So she's not coming into this brand new. So we're excited about that. We're excited about both Dr. Trakti and Ms. De Silva, and with her being there in person, if there's any questions for her, I'm sure she would be happy to answer. I'll turn it back over to you, Councilwoman Katz. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I need a motion on this.
So moved.
Any questions? No questions? Mrs. Frank will take a vote.
It was reviewed in ERC.
That's right, it was reviewed in ERC. I'm sorry.
Community for a number of years and has been an integral part in the Old City expansion project as we continue to make plans and improve that area. And then
Ms. De Silva, and with her being there in person, any questions?
And our new appointment, who was brought forward, Ms. Katie De Silva. We had her resume sent to us, and I just wanted to point out a few things on that because it is very impressive. And as I mentioned in the ERC meeting, the Water Authority Board and the Zoning and Hearing Board are two that require some level of expertise and a level of commitment with time. So Ms. De Silva has been a, excuse me, a member of the CEDACOG Natural Gas Cooperative, the Clinton County Economic Partnership, the PA Wilds Center Board for Directors and PA Wilds Planning Team, the CEDACOG Metropolitan Planning Organization, the Keystone Energy Technology Enterprise, and WXBI Community Radio, just to name a few of her qualifications. So we have quite the gem joining the board. So we thank you for that, Ms. De Silva.
Is she present tonight?
She is present.
Hi there. Would you like to say anything? We want to thank you very much for serving. Mrs. Frank, the vote.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy, Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Motion carried also. Next thing on the agenda is Mayor, you are up and I'll have Janice Frank read the resolution short form, please.
Resolution to approve the 2022 James David Robinson Cultural Arts Grant Program and associated awards.
Give a motion in a second.
Yes, good evening again, Vice President Katz, members of Council Administration. What you have before you is the resolution for the James Robinson Cultural Grant. The three submissions this year were the Repaz Band, the Williamsport Symphony Orchestra, and the Community Arts Center. The recommendation was $1,000 each of those. It's what we have allocated each year is $3,000. And with the three submissions, the recommendations again was $1,000 for each of those. As I'm sure everyone is aware, this is in memory of James Robinson, the cultural grant that we do each year to remember him. And this year we only had the three submissions. And so that's the recommendation to go to each of these organizations. This was reviewed in finance. Thank you.
Ms. Beeling, this went to finance.
Yes, this was reviewed in finance, and there's nothing. I think since I've been on council and probably long before, we've been handing out this grant. The total amount of dollars hasn't changed in that time. I think the only real discussion we had was the last couple of years, the applicants have sent out just a handful of applicants. But we speculated, I think, in the finance just related to small amount of funding. There's too large a pool of applicants that frankly just reduces the amount of funding. each applicant. These are all deserving enterprises. Many of them, all of them have received money from the city via this program in the past. And all the programming that it supports is important and does good work in the community. So the discussion was positive.
Thank you. Any other questions from any council members? If not, Mrs. Frank?
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mayor. I guess we.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to skip around on the agenda here. We're going to go down to item number 21, demolition at 917, 919 Second Street. And this is with the College of Technology. Mr. Nar, you are up.
Good evening, Councilwoman Katz and members of council. What I present to you tonight is a request from Pennsylvania College of Technology to demolish the property at 917, 919 Second Street. The property is currently within the institutional zoning district, and the current reason for the demo is because it's unsafe and unstructurally sound at this time.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions on the demo? Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead. Ms. Green.
Just as we often ask in cases like this, it would appear that the property next to this property has also been demolished. Does the college also own that property, and are there any plans for the lots?
They do own that, and this time there's no current plan for development.
Okay.
Any other questions? We'll take the vote, Mrs. Frank.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item is 22 on the agenda, certificate of appropriateness signage for residents in 150 West Church Street. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Nar.
What we have for you tonight is a request to change signage out at the Residence Inn. It is within the central business district. What they are proposing is current lettering is red lettering. What they're trying to do is swap it out for channel lettering, which will be white. You do have the existing as well as the proposed, and I do have a representative via Zoom.
And this, any questions? Yes, Ms. Mealy.
It looks as though serif fonts are out of style.
Just a little bit, yes.
Okay. No other questions. I think that I would say that to my taste, the new signage is an improvement on the old signage, and my assumption is that my taste is just following the times. So, thank you.
Any other questions? I'll say the same thing. I think the signage really looks good. Really does. Take the vote, please, Mrs. Frank.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is certificate of appropriateness signage for Town Place Suites, 10 West Church Street. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Nar.
What we have before you tonight is a request from Town Place Suites. It is located in Central Business District. What they're replacing to do is replace channel lettering, which is blue and red with black lettering. You do have existing and proposed, and I have the same representative here as well.
Okay. Any questions? No questions? Mrs. Frank? For the
Mr.
vote.
Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Now we're going to go back up to the top. On number 6 on the agenda, ordinance providing for preferred residency for city employees. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Hello, Molly.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this is the second reading. We discussed at the last meeting that there was a 2020 ordinance requiring residency in the city for about 10 employees who are at will. The balance of the employees are all unionized and have a separate contractual requirement. Due to the current labor market and our struggles with finding people who have certain certifications and experience required for positions such as the codes administrator, we are requesting to make the change from having it be required to preferred that these employees live within the city limits. We would post positions as such, saying that residency is preferred. If we have two candidates with equal qualifications, we would give the position to the resident. Any questions?
Any questions from anyone? If not, Mrs. Frank, we will take the vote.
Actually, Bonnie, if I may, one
Oh, you
quick
do
que-
have, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
It's not so much a question as just a point. I agree with the administration that I think given, especially some of the certain of the positions that we're looking for with the qualifications, I can understand the need to expand our pool. But I would underline the fact that I think that we need, as a city, and maybe frankly, it should even be some sort of an ad hoc committee between the administration and city council. We need to put together some sort of a plan to incentivize people to move into the community. And I don't just mean ordinary people. I think that is also an important focus, but our employees should want to live in the city because it's a good place to live. And so I think that we should, we've talked a number of times about putting together a couple of carrots that will attract candidates that we might find who are living outside of the city to move into the city. And I think that we need to work on that ASAP because the residency ordinance in and of itself was not enough and would never have been enough, I don't think, to sort of force people to move into the city, but to make the city an attractive place to live for people who are looking for new employment, I think would be key to achieving that goal through another mechanism. So I guess if the administration wants to think about possibly maybe creating some sort of a subcommittee or something like that could look at that for a while. I don't think it would take long to put together a pool of incentives, but we would definitely need to focus on it and not just talk about it. So thanks.
I like that idea.
We're not the only ones. The school district is in the same position. And the last time when we formed this ordinance and talked about it, we also wanted to include the Chamber of Commerce and from the school district and the city, because we need to do this in order to bring in more taxes, because as I've stated, and I know we've all stated, we're not bringing in enough money at this point to pay all of our bills. And I said, we have to be careful with this. And I agree with Ms. Neely. We should have an ad hoc meeting that we can start working on how can we accomplish this goal to bring more people into our city. And this wasn't strong enough to begin with. It really wasn't. And we do have to do something that's going to entice people to come here. So, and I think we'll talk to the mayor afterwards and see where we can go with this. And and of course, with your help also.
Yep, sounds good. We can start
Okay.
working on that. I like it.
Okay. Anybody else with any kind of questions? Yes.
Just in the vein of talking about these things, yeah, I can imagine things we can incentivize with, and I think it needs to fit in with the larger plan that the different things we're talking about revitalizing the whole city. As that would be an underlying foundation to build on and it's more of a long term. I think we can do things in the short term, but I think we can, our goal is to have Williamsport be on another level all across the board. And there are things underway that are some developments that are now going on that are gonna help towards that. So I think we can come up with some good things that'll fit into long range and short term.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mrs. Frank?
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Viter,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the ordinance for transfer ordinance number 1. This is the final reading. Mrs. Frank, if you can read this in short form.
An ordinance transfer ordinance number 1.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Woodring is not here, so I'm going to address this ordinance. She came to us, and this is the final reading. And what she would like to do is she needs a new copier, and she would like to take from her supplies line item of $600 and place it into the equipment line item. On the initial budget was $600, like I said, from the supplies. And she would need to transfer $200 more into her equipment account, which would be account number 3010-64040. And we all realize that she does need a better copy machine. Is there any questions from anybody? Did I take a motion? Okay. Any questions? Yes,
Just to be clear, this is transfer ordinance number 1 and not transfer ordinance number 5.
according to the agenda, it says, and I saw that
But
also.
according to the copy I'm looking at, it says number 5.
The mine
It
says,
applies to
yes.
2022, right? Okay.
I
Yes,
did
that's right.
check on that and Adam said they were from 2022.
Yeah, so it should
So
be,
he said start at 2023 with number 1.
but we're changing the 2022 budget, right?
Yes.
Oh.
That's what it
point.
says in the
Good
ordinance.
point.
I'm a little confused about, given the 2022 is already over, why we're changing the 2022 budget.
Mm,
Are we changing the 2022 budget? Second very important question. Are we sure about that?
Or was that in the line number for 2022?
I believe it really should be 2023,
Okay,
because the money's going to be spent, or the item's going to be purchased this year,
okay,
and
so,
also the effective date is this year.
okay, so do we, I mean, often we approve transfers after the fact, that is to say the purchase has been made, the money has been spent, we need to transfer the funding to cover it. Do we know which way? I mean, perhaps we should simply table it until next time, I guess. Do we know for sure which way it goes? Okay, so this would be a modification then to the 2023 budget. Okay, so we need to amend the wording in the ordinance to be 2023? Yes,
It should. yes.
okay. Then I'd like to make a motion to amend, changing in the first paragraph, 2022 to 2023 general fund budget.
Second.
Okay,
Any questions on that?
and, okay, we'll have to vote on that, but then
Yes,
I need
let's
to make
do-
a second
let's vote
motion to
on
amend.
Let's
Okay.
vote on the amendment.
Okay.
Mrs.
On the
Frank.
amendment. Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes,
Okay.
and I don't think Mrs. Woodring was aware of what she was doing with this. I think that's what it
Well, that's
was.
pretty clear.
I think what it was is, with the first reading, she started preparing this the end of last year. So I know that all of us, the end of last year, beginning of this year, still use.
I think that's how this came
Okay,
about with
got it.
the 2022,
But
but it's going to
but
be
just
taken
to
out.
once again be clear, we are modifying the 2023 budget to
Yes,
reflect,
because she
Okay.
hasn't purchased
All
it
right.
yet.
which means the other thing that we need to then change in this ordinance is it is now, I would like to make a motion to amend transfer ordinance number 5 to read transfer ordinance number 1. Because this is the first transfer ordinance of 2023.
Any questions from anyone else? If not, we'll take the vote, Janice.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes,
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Okay, so then we go back to the initial transfer ordinance, which will have to, at this point, $200 taken out of the 2023 budget.
mhm.
And there's nothing that has to be done because it's changing from her supply line item into her equipment line item, right, Norm?
Yeah, that's
So
right.
that's fine.
Yes,
So we're just transferring really $200.
correct.
Okay. We took a motion on this, right?
Yes.
In the beginning.
Okay. Any questions on this? We'll take the vote, Mrs. Frank.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes, good catch, Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Okay, next item on the agenda is ordinance fee schedule from the treasurer's office. This will be the first reading. Mrs. Frank, if you could read this in short form.
An ordinance fee schedule in first reading.
Hello, Mr. Mackey.
A motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
You jumped it.
You guys want me to say anything or?
No, we're done.
Okay.
I got
Fine.
or so.
No, I think you should.
No,
probably
you've
say
got to
something.
talk about this. No, come back here.
All right, so with regards to this, we've been making increased efforts to increase compliance with our taxes. And I believe that some of these fees are necessitated to help cover the costs that it's having on our office and how much time we were having to spend on this. We're spending an exorbitant amount on envelopes, just trying to get these out. And having this fee will help discourage people from not following the rules that we've set out for people before. So that's why some of this stuff is in here, and it's more about covering our excess efforts and increasing compliance with our taxes.
And this went to finance.
Yep.
This went to finance, yes.
Okay. Ms. Mealy?
Yep, this went to finance and, many of these fees are new in terms of being recorded and publicly available. And we asked, I think perhaps in the expectation that something had increased, whether any of the fees had changed. And actually, Mr. Mackey informed us that the NSF fee has decreased. Because I think there's a kind of a gradual move to not make money on penalizing people who fail to have sufficient funds when they give, a check, both in the banking world and also in an area like this.
Correct.
So that was good to see. It's pretty rare that the city decreases fees. So, but aside from that, nothing too exciting. I think the only other thing to point out is the somewhat of a penalty fee for a business that has failed to acquire a business or mercantile business privilege or mercantile tax license. And that makes sense. It's not much money, but at least it's a little bit of a ding for not doing their paperwork. The reception in finance was generally positive. This will be posted to the city's website as well, so it will be as open and available as we can make it.
And it will have copies posted at my office because I want to make this as well known as I can so that we have people actually taking a look at this and filing appropriately.
Any questions from anyone else? The only question I have is, how many are you sending out?
So I think probably today we sent out between 20 and 30. And we're sending that out every time we receive filings coming in. I'd say about 20 to 30% of the ones that we've received in either don't have the appropriate backup with them, which would be the $20 fee that's on there. And then that would come back into us. Because what we're doing and what we're trying to get is we're trying to get people to follow the rules that have been set out in our ordinances and our rules and regulations. And we can't go ahead and verify what someone's income is if they don't tell us, if it's not provided for. So we're asking for a federal filing form, a detailed accounting report, or something in writing to show us, hey, look, I made this much in the year, instead of just putting it on our city filing form, because that's just one section of it. And I feel that if you're including a detailed accounting report or a federal filing form, it's more easy for us to verify that, yes, you did make these funds, because that kind of adds the backup that the federal government's going to come down and check on you just to make sure you made that money as well, rather than just telling us and saying, oh yeah, I didn't make anything. We've had several businesses that have claimed to have made nothing, but through other means, we've discovered they had made something that they did not include on their backup because there was no backup.
Okay, thank you.
It also helps us with verifying that some of their funds are actually earned in the city versus outside. I had one business telling us that they made tons of money in the city and it was all in loyal stock. So that actually saved somebody some money on that end.
It's interesting. Really
Hey,
interesting.
come on, you take this honesty thing too far.
I'm trying to do what I can for everybody.
It's like, wow. Well, if there's no other questions, take a vote, Mrs. Frank?
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes,
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is
Resolution real estate refund for Coles.
Mr. Mackey.
So following an assessment change by the county, it was deemed that the city is giving them back $6,000, $12.83. So that's going to be given back out of the general fund for the 2022 tax assessment.
Okay. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we're doing this a little backwards, okay?
Sorry, we'll get through it, Bonnie.
I know, we're working on it. We're working on it. This is kind of discouraging in a way.
It is what it is. We can't change how much the property is worth, and this was following what the county deemed that the property was worth. If it makes you feel better, we do increase the MVP filings by having that fee schedule come in. So I'm trying to cover any losses from real estate with that one.
Okay. Did this go to finance?
no.
This didn't go,
No,
didn't go
this is a pretty standard procedure too with some of our stuff.
And no amount of discussion changes it. So.
No, I guess,
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't. Anybody else, any questions at all? Other than, Mrs. Frank will take a vote.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes,
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Item, number 10 on the agenda is, resolution property tax penalty waiver. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
You're up again.
So Governor Wolf signed in a penalty provision for property taxes that were to come into effect if a person had sold or transferred their property during the movement or during the sending out of taxes. So when we're sending out taxes, if someone sold their property, did not receive it, and they can follow 5 guidelines that Governor Wolf laid out, then as long as they do those, the penalty be waived it, but they have to have a check for the face value ready to go when they do hand in this form. I'm going to have copies of the form in my office and on public display so people can read about it if they'd like.
To finance.
this did come to finance. And I think, and actually you'll have to excuse me, Mr. Mackey, did we make any change? Shall I make a change now to the wording in this? Is
Correct.
that-
The
okay.
only change that I believe we'd make is just during property transfers on that last paragraph there.
Right. Yeah, the only discussion we had about this actually, since it seems like a reasonable thing to come down from the state is all of us, I believe, initially read this and assumed that we were looking at waiving additional charges in a kind of a broad array of situations, when in fact this only applies to when property is transferred in a tax year and the tax bill may not have been received by the person who was supposed to be paying the property taxes. We decided that it would at least help a little bit if there were arguments to come down in future about waiving fees, if we inserted in the resolution following in certain situations, the language involving property transfers. And so I would make a motion to amend the resolution in the second paragraph toward the end to read for real estate taxes in certain situations involving property transfer.
Second.
Any questions on this, on the amendment? If not, Mrs. Frank?
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes,
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Now we're going back to the original resolution. Is there any questions on this? If not, Mrs. Frank, we'll take a vote.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
yes,
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Okay, next item on the agenda, number 11, resolution exonerating the city treasurer from collection of 2022 real estate tax.
Correct. So for 2022, we had outstanding $938,037.78 of uncollected out of our total, which was close to $15 million. This is right in line with our 92% collection rate from last year. And for our school taxes, we collect about $13,543,068 give or take a few cents. So this is to exonerate the treasurer from collecting these 2022 taxes. And this, again, this is standard procedure that Nick had done in prior years as well.
This went to finance?
No, this is.
This is just
also just a
okay.
resolution. So yeah, sorry, Bonnie.
Okay, anybody have any questions on this? First of all, I do need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any questions on this? Stop laughing. No questions. Mrs. Frank will take the vote.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes,
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is resolution uncollected city real estate taxes for 2022.
Correct. So this is the turning over of the 938,000 to the county for collection, and they will do so and make their best effort to collect those funds for us and then turn them over as they come in.
Need a motion?
So moved. Second.
The question I have for this is, this comes down every year. And how much, it seems like it's probably the same names every year, isn't it?
I don't know if I can exactly say that because this is my
It seems
first
like
year
there's a
turning it
lot.
over, but I can recognize a few names over the years, and I am working on at least trying to get in contact with some of them.
Would you say that some of these names that they're still living in the city?
I know a few are, yes.
And the county does their best to collect these taxes?
If the county cannot collect the taxes, then it goes up for judicial sales, and then they won't have the property anymore after that.
Okay,
So the county does do its best to make their best opportunities work with that. And if it doesn't, then they use whatever tools are available, turn them back into revenue generating properties for the city.
it also seems like it's close to the same amount every year too.
Yeah, that 92% is what it was running over year. We usually send about 2 notices, the beginning notice, the first duplicates that come out, and then the second notice goes out around October to try and get people to recognize that they still have a bill due. And for the most portion, it does seem to get a big push in, but that 92%, it seems to be where we're stuck at year over year.
It would be nice if we could reduce that even more.
Correct. Is the only thing it does is just increase the amount of penalty that a taxpayer has to do, and I hate to see that.
Mhm. Any questions from anyone?
No, I just did want to say one quick thing though on the part of Mr. Mackey is that we've had some pretty good conversations about your progress as far as identifying and collecting those taxes. I just wanted to, for the record, say I'm very impressed as far as how diligent, how thorough he's been working through all of this. He spends a considerable amount of time digging into it to try and make sure that we're collecting every bit that we can.
Not the easiest thing to do.
No, but it's fun.
Any other questions? If not, Mrs. Frank?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
yes,
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is item 14. Mrs. Frank, I'm gonna let you read this.
Resolution authorizing agreement between the Williamsport Bureau of Fire and Higher Information Group.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Did it vote? Good evening, chief.
Good evening. How's everyone doing tonight?
We're doing good.
Ready to go home, right? Before you is a resolution for an agreement between the Williamsport Bureau of Fire and the Higher Information Group who we've been using. We are looking at purchasing a new copier, scanner, printer, fax machine. The one that we have currently is 9 years old. We've been having a few issues with it. And this machine here is able to send, rather than a fax, it will scan and email the document. It's a lot cleaner. We got it for just about the same as the previous machine. So it's about $211 a month. And that's for 1,000 black and white copies, 500 color copiers per month.
That's it. This went to Public Works
It did.
and
No, public safety.
Public Safety.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm on both committees. I knew I heard this before. Mr. Mackey.
Yeah, it did come to public safety, contrary to popular belief. There still is a public safety committee. This is our first meeting in quite a while. We had a brief discussion on this. Could you, Chief, just remind us again what line item this is coming out of?
Contracted service.
That's right. Thank you. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
No, it's a pretty standard agreement here and, according to Chief, this is about the life cycle of a machine like this. So 5 years with a lease of this kind, we'll be able to get a good value for trading in on a better model in 5 years. And I can turn this over to Vince, Councilman Olivia here, who had good things to say about this machine as he has had experience with it. So.
Thank you, Councilman Mackey. Sorry, it's just one of those nights, isn't it? No, it's a good machine. We've dealt with these machines before. And what's nice about this particular machine is, during our conversation of public safety, you were asking about if it has paper jams and those kinds of problems, as any kind of print technology always inevitably does have. What's nice is the technology that are in these machines now actually tell you exactly what is wrong and where to look, and everything is labeled by letter and by number, and it walks you through step by step on exactly what to do and how to fix it. So it greatly reduces the amount of maintenance costs as far as having to call out for maintenance technicians to come work on things. So there's a big cost savings there, which is obviously to everyone's benefit. So no, it's a great machine.
We did get a good education on the copy machine. It's an incredible piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And I think it'll help your department tremendously.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have any questions? Yes, Ms. Mealy.
The only thing I'm asking or curious about is, so all service calls are included.
Yes.
So we won't, that's
Yes.
excellent.
That's-
The drums developer and toner, I'm assuming is only up to that number of copies.
Yeah, anything over that, you pay an extra fee, an added fee.
Oh, okay. Oh, so the drums developer and toner are included, but we're paying a fee for the copies.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And this to go through Austin.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Any other questions? If not, Mrs. Frank?
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, Mrs. Frank?
Resolution authorizing a contract for professional consulting services with CEDACOG of Governments.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Good evening, Mr. Mimi.
Good evening, Vice President Katz and members of council. We bring to you a resolution tonight to approve contract with the CEDACOG organization to administer the CDBG program for the fiscal year 2023. The amount of the contract is $141,500. The funds will be taken from the CDBG administrative line item. The contract has been reviewed by Austin White and was presented to the ERC for their direction and input. If you have any questions, Jamie Schroeder and Tyler Dombrowski from CEDACOG are here to answer any of the technical issues, and we open the floor for your questions. Similar to last year's contract.
Okay. Went to ERC, Mr. Bider?
This did come to ERC, and one of the biggest things that we discussed was the scope of work that they're going to be performing now, which is why we see an increased cost of roughly $60,000, I believe it was, give or take about 5,000. But we also understand the importance of having CEDACOG help us with this program, because we don't want to run into any kind of time crunch where this money is not spent in a timely manner, and then we get the slap on the wrist from HUD, which we have gotten in the past, and that can affect future funding. that we would be receiving. So I will, Mr. Pelisi was also in that meeting, so if you have anything to add to that.
No, I have nothing more to add. You hit everything I would have said.
Any other questions from anyone?
I have.
No,
Skip, are we, kind of, have we unraveled a lot over the past couple of years to get things in place where they need to be?
With the assistance of CEDACOG, we're getting there.
Okay,
Have we unraveled all of the issues? No,
but we
but,
haven't.
but we're
Okay.
getting there.
All right. Is there, an estimate or percentage wise, or is it more of,
It all depends
Just
on
governing.
what HUD may come back with and ask questions of
okay,
projects that were done prior to our engagement of CEDACOG or prior to my arrival here. So
so,
we're dealing with stuff that happened in 2018,
okay,
19, 2020. Moving forward, we will absolutely follow
Mhm.
the rules, dot all the i's and cross all the t's. That's
so
what CEDACOG is here to help us with.
it's currently an ongoing conversation. with
Yes, sir.
HUD. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Ms. Beal?
actually, all that I was going to say is that I feel bad that I feel like Tyler keeps making the trip up here every time. We seem to have, for some reason, a CEDACOG resolution on here pretty frequently. And I would say that CEDACOG doesn't necessarily need to appear in person. If you guys want to phone in, that might make things simpler. So.
They did Zoom into the ERC meeting
Okay.
and they chose to come up here tonight to
Sure. I mean, that's.
watch council in action.
I mean, I'm trying to keep it exciting up here, as are Mr. Mackey and Mr. Pelisi down there holding down the other end of the table. But nonetheless, if you guys would like to stay at your houses and to Zoom in, I think that would be perfectly fine. We have an established relationship with CEDACOG, and any questions I'm sure can be dealt with digitally instead of remotely instead of here in person if you want. But we are happy to see you, and thank you very much for coming.
We do have good restaurants here. And thank you very much for coming. Any other questions? If not, Mrs. Frank?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Biden,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes,
Thank you.
motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Mimi. Mrs. Frank, the next resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing the purchase of managed engine mobile device management service from Zoho Corporation.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Hello, Mr. Black.
Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight?
Well, I think we're hanging in there, aren't we?
Yes, yes. What you have before you is a resolution for purchase of a product from Manage Engines mobile device management product. It allows us to manage the cell phones the city issues to certain employees. And it keeps them secured in case they get lost. They can be locked down. It keeps them encrypted with any data that we pass back and forth between the two. I've been using their product for the first 25 devices that we have here for free. We're now past that point and we need to add to it. Unfortunately, after 26 and up, it costs you money. The original price on this was $14.28 and I was able to get it down to $11.95. That is for 1 year. That is coming out of contracted services and it was reviewed by Austin White.
And this went to finance.
Yes, this did go to finance. We had some discussions around the product, but this is clearly, especially given some of the sensitive information that might be found on some of the city's cell phones, a necessary item to have in our toolbox. And I think that the only question that I did not ask, and I don't know how I missed it, was this price is good for how long?
1 year.
Okay, and then.
It's basically a monthly, but if we
Okay.
buy it as a year, we get a 20% discount.
Got it. And historically speaking, have they seen vast price jumps on their products year over year? Or do you know if it's relatively static?
Never had to buy it before.
Ah,
Up to this
okay.
point, it was free.
So we'll learn next year, huh? Yeah, that's The one thing I think that probably makes everyone a little bit nervous with any sort of contract anymore is that the
And this-
tendency of that
this is a
contract to go up in
fluid-
price.
This is
year
a
over year.
fluid price.
Okay.
So if we go above 50 units, then the price would go up.
But right now, I believe you said we're looking at something around 43, maybe with those
Somewhere
15
around
you're
there,
bringing
yeah,
in?
because I will be eliminating another service that we're paying on a monthly basis for legacy phones that we
Mhm.
have. I can move them all over to this one now, or after this has been passed and approved.
Mm-hmm.
And then eliminate that where we're paying $4 per phone per month
Mm.
on those ones.
Good, okay. Well, yeah. No, anyway, clearly a good thing and clearly a service that we need. The product, Mr. Black said it works, well. So yeah, I think the only question is what it might take us here moving forward, but it was well received at finance. I'll defer to other members if they have anything else to say.
Any questions from finance committee at all? If not, Mrs. Frank?
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes,
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next
Thank you.
item on the agenda, Mrs. Frank?
Resolution authorizing the purchase of Defender pool filter utilizing ARPA funds.
Good evening, Mr. Livermore.
Good evening, members of council. Yeah, what you have before you tonight is a resolution to authorize a purchase of Defender pool filter at the Memorial Pool, using ARPA funds. The pool filter that we are planning to put in is one of the state-of-the-art units that we can get. The price of it's $268,804.55 using Public Works out of the future line item. This was reviewed in Public Works and was reviewed by our city solicitor. Little back history on the pool filter we do have right now. Obviously, when the pool was put in 1971, that's when this unit was put in. Filters have been changed out over the years, but we are still running on to the 1971 system that we have. So it is time to upgrade this to make this pool run a lot nicer.
I need a motion for this.
So moved.
Second.
This did come to Public Works and this is a necessary item that has to be done. And you said it was probably going to take about a month, did you say, if I remember correctly? to
Yeah,
put
it ain't
this
gonna
in?
take long. They're ready to move real
Okay.
soon. This company that's doing this, it's called If It's Water. They just got done installing the same system at Penn College in their pool, so.
And this lasted a long time. A really long time. So it is about time.
Yep.
It really is. Any questions from anyone? Here at all? If there's no questions, Mrs. Frank?
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
yes,
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, Mrs. Frank.
A resolution authorizing the purchase of the 2020 John Deere 4066R compact utility tractor.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Up to you again, Mr. Livermore.
Yeah, what you have before you is resolution to purchase a compact utility tractor. The tractor we're running right now is from 1993, so that has served its first life to what we use. It's time to upgrade that as well. We are trading this in, and the dollar figure that they gave us is $3,500 for a trade-in. For a total of the new tractors, $46,470.76. This is the capital projects line item that went through my budget that was passed, was reviewed in Public Works and reviewed by a city solicitor.
Yes, this did come to Public Works and Mr. Pelisi, you knew a lot about this tractor, didn't you?
Maybe a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I was impressed by the price point that we're getting a 52 horse tractor for brand new. So, yeah, and obviously the city goes through its equipment and those pieces of equipment are used very, not to say the city is hard on them, but they are used a lot.
Yeah.
So they certainly need to, this purchase is certainly necessary. So.
Any other questions? If not, Mrs. Frank.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes,
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, Mrs. Frank.
A resolution authorizing the purchase of a new 450-25 Steiner tractor.
Yeah, what you have before you is a
I'm
resolution.
going to take a motion first.
You're trying to cut me off. So moved.
Second.
Oh, yeah.
Need a second?
Right here.
Oh, you second, I'm sorry. Didn't hear. I'm so used to looking
Dude,
down
that's
there at
not-
this
Yeah,
point,
y'all
you
flustered.
know. Okay, Scott.
A resolution authorizing the purchase of a 450 Steiner tractor. This ain't a normal tractor. What you see, this is a specialized piece of equipment that mows our levees and dike systems. It's designed to hold on to 2-to-1 slopes, mow steep grades for our levee system. This tractor will be replacing one of our Hillsiders piece of equipment from 1999. This came out of the capital projects flood line item. The total of the tractor is $41,887.80. This was reviewed in Public Works and reviewed by City Solicitor.
Yes, this did come to Public Works, and I guess the tires on this is really, how many tires are on this? I mean, it's
8 tires, yeah, 4 per axle, so it has a low center of gravity that would be able to stay on the bank. Yep.
And how long does this take to do the levee? I mean, by the time you get done at one end, you gotta start right over again.
3 weeks. So by the time you start, you finish in 3 weeks. and
You gotta
get to
start all over.
again.
Oh, what a job. Any questions?
No, I believe that the current tractor that we have is going to be put up on municipal
Yes,
bid.
sure. Yep, that'll be posted shortly here. Once I get this machine, roughly 2 months, I was talking with the vendor, then therefore it'll go on the bid after that. Yep.
Any other questions? If not, Mrs. Frank.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
yes,
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution awarding levy pumps station design services to GPI.
So moved.
Need-
Second.
We got it. Good evening, Mr. Sander.
Yes, good evening, everybody. So what you have before you is a resolution, please stop moving. To hire GPI Engineering for design services for a backup generator and automated switchgear at 3 of our 9 levee pump stations. With the relief wells and the cross pipes already in motion, as far as either being designed or already bid out, this is our next most critical item in our levee system. This would be paid out of ARPA. It'd be a contract with GPI for $60,000. We currently have 1.7 million left in our ARPA levy categorization. As you can see, excuse me, GPI has much experience all over the Pennsylvania, Cannonsburg, Philadelphia, Warren, Scranton, from the proposal they sent me. This thing keeps on moving. Anyway, when I put this out last summer, I received 5 proposals and they ranged in price from roughly $50,000 to upwards of $240,000. So they're a solid firm. They're looking forward to getting started and yeah, they're good to go. So this was discussed in Public Works and given no recommendation because you guys don't do that anymore.
Right, we don't do that anymore. This went to finance.
no, this one.
Public Works.
Went to public. Yeah.
I've sat in all the meetings,
This
so
is
that's
for
why
you.
I'm confused with all this. Okay, this came to Public Works. Yes, I do remember this. We have a long way to go with everything that's with the levee at this point, between the cross pipes and the pumps. I mean, we're starting to see groundbreaking at this point,
Yeah, you'll
With-
likely
with
be seeing
this.
that this summer. Yes.
which I'm hoping, we were told that was going to happen last year and the year before, but so far, because of lack of money and funds, now we have the money and funds to go after some of this. So I know we're all going to be happy to see that, especially what's going on with I'm sorry, the pump stations, some of them, were very, they weren't turning on all the time.
Correct, yes,
And,
yes.
and this is what and from what the discussion that we had, they're also gonna have generators attached to this also, right?
Yeah, standalone backup generators.
Okay. Which is something that we haven't had in the past.
Correct. And we've had instances where our levy, obviously our levy system gets inspected once every year. Have been instances where the pump stations have not turned on, which is not a good thing. Luckily, our city electrician was able to get there in time to turn it on, but in the event that was to happen during a flooding event, that could be catastrophic. That's hence the reason we're putting backup generators on site at the pump stations on 3 of them. Now, this will spur a $1 to $1.3 million construction project. Just to let everyone know, and we have funding available for that as well, with a little bit of ARPA and then the other earmark item that isn't quite public yet. So, yep.
Fantastic. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Byer.
If, Mr. Sanders, if you could be so kind, over the next few weeks, if you could kind of put together, I would say almost like a flow chart as to what organizations such as Wood.
Yeah.
And here we have GPI, what they're doing, and then what the Army Corps of Engineers is going to be doing over the next 18 months, just so we can get a little bit more of a better picture of that as a body, because there's a lot of moving parts to this.
There is.
And to fully grasp it, I think that would be very helpful.
That's no problem. And Wood, just to let you know, Wood, the water resources team from Wood separated themselves, marketed themselves, actually got bought out by a company called WSP. So Wood is no longer hired by us anymore. So just let you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now the company is WS.
WSP, they're the number one engineering firm in the United States, actually, for revenue, as far as revenue is concerned.
I think for the sake of reflection on the past, Randy and I have seen them go through how many names?
3 or 4.
Three.
I think it's more like 6 or 7.
Oh, okay.
The time I've been on council. Which is kind of epic to me, sorry, just in terms of corporate identity and all that, it seems, but anyway, but GPI is not affiliated in any way, shape or form with Wood.
No, not
Okay.
one of the competitors, actually.
All right. And did we go through an RFP process?
We did. I put out request proposals. I got 5 of them on Penn bid, and like I said, they range anywhere from 50-some thousand, 240,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, sorry, I was over there.
And
talking
this
Norm
was
for a
reviewed.
second.
I didn't apologize. Sorry to cut you off.
No.
This was reviewed by a UHY for ARPA compliance and is
Yeah.
okay in that regard too.
Just out of curiosity, do we have any estimate on when this will be
They,
shovel ready? Well, like,
yes, GPI guy talked to them a couple weeks ago. Generators are on like a 9-month back order right now, so it'll be a while.
Oh,
It'll
okay.
be a while.
Yeah, but I mean, so this particular element will be completed.
This-
the
Yeah, they're
engineering.
ready to start on this. So this will essentially get their mechanical engineers and electrical engineers drawing up plans to put out the bid. And once it's out the bid,
And then, okay, and when do they expect to have the bid prepared?
they did not let me know on that.
Okay, so we don't have any kind of time estimate.
But I
on it.
can simultaneously get you that information when I get Mr. Byer his information.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And then they will put out the bid. Are they then, this is obviously not construction management in any way, shape or form.
It is
Are
not,
they
no.
are they evaluating the bids that we received? Are they, when they put out the RFP, are they also in charge of?
Yeah, the bids will be just a traditional low bid. If you're the lowest qualified bidder, you will get the job.
Got it. But still somebody has to evaluate that, right?
Yes, that'd be me and our solicitors. yes.
Okay, all right. So they're not going to be a party to that at all.
It's not part of this contract, no.
Okay,
Not currently.
got it. All right. But you're saying that once we get, so we're expecting this process to take at least, say, 6 months?
Yeah.
And then once we select a bidder, which would be another month out after we get specs, right? I'd say at least, if not
Yeah.
2 months.
Yeah.
Then we're looking at, the generators, et cetera, which could be on back order for as much as 18
Quite
months
some
after
time,
that,
yeah.
probably. Okay. But obviously some of the work can start, the generators aren't essential to start the project, correct?
No, correct. And the automated switchgear is actually a very fantastic addition because as of now, Scott's guys have to actually physically go to the pump station to turn them on.
Right.
Based on the height, of the water in the river, like Cumming Creek or the river, but these will be automated. So once the water hits a certain level, it snaps on by itself. So
Okay, awesome. That's fantastic. Okay. I think that's everything that oh, actually, sorry, my last question was, we had discussed a couple of stations that if all of the work was done on those stations, the water authority might be willing to take over. They're managing some of the
Yeah.
water handled by the water authority. I'm assuming that none of these are those stations, but I can never remember.
The water authority is tied to the Arch Street pump station because of some of their water discharges from it. But if I'm not mistaken, in the stormwater transfer contract, you want to call it that, 2 years ago, they explicitly made it clear that they don't want anything levy related until it's accredited and up to
Right.
snuff. So
Yeah, well, they said until the pump stations were fixed, they didn't want them, which is why I was wondering if any of these were the pump stations they were willing to take once they were fixed.
not this one, no, not one of these three, no.
Not one of those three?
No.
Got it. All right, thanks, John.
Yep.
John, one of the questions that I do have, you asked, Mr. Biter asked for a flow chart.
Yeah.
We've been working on this for over 10 years. And I think I would really like to know how much money we've spent on this, on the levy, because most of the money that's been spent has been with engineering companies coming through.
Yep.
And, we've gone through, the first company began with an A. Do you remember? the
Amic
name?
Wood,
Yeah,
It was all
Yeah.
wood,
Amic Wood,
all that money's been spent with wood.
Wood, basically, yeah.
Have we had
They
a,
changed the name, remember? They
Yeah.
changed the name.
Amic Foster Wood, yeah. Then it went to Wood, now it's
Mhm.
Wasp.
yeah, I think it was Amic Foster
it was
Wheeler.
Amic.
actually.
It's Foster
That's
Wheeler.
our-
That's
Same.
Yeah, it might have actually just been Foster Wheeler and then it became Amex Foster Wheeler and then it became, I don't know, anyway, right.
They kept on changing with everything, but I would really like to know, and I think everybody else would like to know, how much has been spent
Yeah.
with wood at this point.
And that's somewhat tricky to do without a financial software system that can really tell us that without digging
Right.
back through paper files. I mean, it can be done, but I
It
think
would take quite a while, and
it
I
would take a while. and I
understand
could
that.
do that.
Yeah.
But
But we have spent a ton of money on this levy so far, and with a lot of the looking into what's going on underneath the
Mhm.
ground and things like that. But a lot of it has been engineering costs.
yes, there's been very little done construction related.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The county has put out the relief wells 4 times now. They came in over budget by about 4 million last go around. They're currently pulling the package together again to put it out to bid again. Obviously, we have some cash in hand now in order to help facilitate that because 50 of those, there's like 60 total relief wells, which are one of our most critical items. There's 50 or so in the city and about 10 or 12 over in South Side that keep on getting rebid out over and over and over again because they're going over budget. Now it looks as though we have cash in hand from the potential earmark, so we can assist with the possibly, but that's not up to me, so.
Exactly. Any questions from anyone else? Yes, Mr. Nelson.
Just one, and I missed this the first time through. Why isn't Arch Street getting an automated?
Yeah, that Arch Street was actually upgraded as part of the water authorities upgrades of theirs. They already have a newer switchgear. It's just a backup generator at that location. So,
Okay,
and I did just put in for it as another grant opportunity through FEMA for $700,000 for a 4th pump station for upgrades. And they did call me and let me know that it's looking good. I will get formal notification in summertime. So as far as I got it or not, but things are looking good. And Tom Keller's working on that for us.
good. Thank you.
Ms. Beally.
Yeah, the other thing, and I'm not sure if it's even possible to track this funding, but I would be, and I don't want you to put together a flow chart or anything, Mr. Sander, because I think some of this is water under the bridge, but I would love to know how many different funding sources we've utilized for this. And I think I've probably seen more city money go into the levy project than any other single project.
Yeah.
We've received a lot of grant funding over the last decade or so that I've been on city council, but most of it has not been for the levy thus far, with the exception of some recent hopeful funding. But there's there's been a lot of time spent on the levy and a lot of money and there hasn't been a lot of work thus far. So certainly it would be great to see it start to bear fruit here sometime soon.
And to add to that, I've been pushing WSP quite a bit. Hey, what's going on? What's going on with the relief well contracts? Are you getting close? Are you getting close? They concurrently have a package of cross pipes for the city and the county that are putting out this winter. and hopes, well, now.
For,
yes,
for
now,
actual bid
For
to get the
actual
work done?
construction.
Okay.
this summer, so.
Okay, all
Yep,
right,
yep.
all right, fantastic. That would be good. I think that would be the first actual dirt flying we'd seen from our dealings with.
No, I put out a contract a year or two ago with the scour
Never mind.
over
Oh,
by
yeah,
Elm
yeah, yeah.
Park. Yeah,
Never mind. I forgot. But that was just a scour,
Yeah,
right?
$50,000 worth.
Yeah, yeah, but still. Okay, anyway. There's a lot to be done. We did an I-beam at some point, right? Didn't we do some, an eye wall? Anyway, doesn't
I
matter.
will,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, yeah, that's a good point. To talk to that point for a second, we currently have a Army Corps of Engineers SQRA endeavor, I'll call it, which is basically evaluating former Woods work that they've already done in regards to our levee system along Lake Humming Creek. Myself and Derek spoke to the Army Corps. They have not quite authorized the funding to do that yet. We've sent in essentially our almost
Okay.
$500,000. They haven't
Ah, okay,
reciprocated with their $500,000, so.
got it. And then we're really hoping that they come back with positive opinions of the work. that
I
we-
certainly hope so.
Okay, all right, excellent. I mean, just to be fair, I think climate change and many of the variables introduced by climate change have made this a constantly evolving project. There's not like a static set of recommendations anymore, because I feel like the recommendations coming from the Army Corps have been enhanced over the last decade, so that we're kind of trying, as we are not getting the work done because we're still working on the engineering studies, the requirements are also changing and making it a larger project. So it's not, I don't believe it's our fault. I also don't necessarily place the blame on any of the firms that we're working with, but it's a frustrating situation for everyone.
Very well stated, actually.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr.
Just
Allison.
a comment on long-term as well. I think we have three, Mr. Livermore, we have three employees that on our two now.
I'm not sure how many we have now.
Yes, you're right. There's 2 to 3, correct?
And at one point, we had 11 back in the day to maintain the levee system. So we're undermanned, and that is not going to change. So we're looking at remediation and upgrading of the levee system, but there's a long-term solution that it's in the works, and there's talk about it, but just so the public knows.
Yeah. A lot of municipalities and counties and regions have gone to a levy authority, which
Yeah,
is essentially
the city is not going to be able to maintain this levee year after year after year, even when it's upgraded. It needs, not that we don't want to do our duty, but the levee protects a lot of things that are related to the whole county, not just Williamsport. So, we need to keep that in the forefront too, as this is discussed in public. It's not just a city issue. It's an area issue and really a county issue. So we're also doing that, and someday we'll have, I hope, a council here that won't be dealing with the ins and outs and daily and yearly problems of maintaining the levee system.
We have nearby municipalities who have effectively created levy authorities within an hour or two of us, and they work well, just like.
Yeah, no,
Oh, we all know that.
Yeah.
yes.
We've got to just make the jump and do it.
Yep.
And that's what we need. Any other questions from anybody or statements? Mrs. Frank, the vote?
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes,
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is accept for filing the WMWA from 10/26/22 and 11/16/22. Also 10/20 from the WMSA. Well, that's, with the initials, it's hard to read all this. 10/26/22 and 11/16/22. May I have a motion on the filings?
So moved.
Second,
Any questions? If not, Mrs. Frank?
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes. Next item is announcements. The next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be held on Thursday, February 2nd, 2023 at 7 PM at Trade and Transit 2, 144 West Third Street, third floor. Upcoming meetings is Wednesday, January 26th, 11:30 AM for the Redevelopment Authority. Tuesday, January 31st, 11:30 AM is Public Safety, 1 PM Finance, 2:30 PM Public Works. Next meeting is February 1st, 9 AM, ERC. On February 2nd, 7 PM is our city council meeting. Next item is comments. Any comments from city council? If not, any comments from the administration? Anybody out there from the administration want to make comments? I guess not. Members of the public, anybody from the public that would like to make any statements? If not, there's no news media, so I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody. You gotta be on top of it. Oops, okay.
All righty.
We're
Okay.
set?
Cool, good, yep.
We're set. Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Public Works Committee meeting Tuesday, January 17th, 2023 at 2:34 PM. We are meeting through Zoom. We have 7 items on the agenda today, and present today is myself, Bonnie Katz, Councilman Randy Allison, Councilman Vincent Pelizzi. We also have Chris Black, our IT person. We have Scott Livermore, Director of Streets and Parks. We have John Sander, our city engineer, Janice Frank, our city clerk. And let's see, we also have Skip Mimi for community development. And let's see now, and our special guest today is Mike Wiley, John Winder, and Jim Crawford. I think I got everybody here. First thing on the agenda is a discussion on the stop signs at Walnut Street. I'm going to open the floor to Scott. Would you like to start something here first before we go to our special guest? No, can't hear you.
You're muted, Scott.
The hands are going, Scott, but we can't hear you.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I could start a little something. So, I mean, obviously, the last meeting we had, this was brought to us that we were at our 90 days as of New Year's, somewhere in that time frame, for the probation period on this. And the findings were that this intersection or roadway did not warrant any stop signs there. I talked to Richard about it, and he wanted to speak on his behalf of the safety issue and what he wanted to say. So that's why we have our guest on today to speak for it.
Okay, we'll open up the floor to who's going to be the speaker here, Mike Wiley, John Winder, or Jim Crawford.
I think Councilwoman Katz, I've been asked to speak first. If anybody else wishes to speak to amplify anything I say, we'll do so. But this is Mike Wiley.
Go ahead, Mike.
So first off, thank you for allowing us this opportunity to address the committee as a whole. We certainly appreciate that. And I think we may have a possible solution that could address a number of concerns. We understand that the residents who live on First Street were concerned about the location of the stop signs. We did take a look at this in some detail. John Winder did quite a bit of work in terms of evaluating this. And I think our major concern comes down to traffic that comes down Walnut Street, making a left turn into our yard. And so if you're familiar with that intersection, and I know you guys are all informed and have taken the time to become informed. So if you turn off Walnut Street at the end of Walnut Street to the left, that goes into Stamen's Walnut Street facility. As you're coming out of that yard, there is a stop sign that we've put in there ourselves, which you're allowed to do on private property to try to manage traffic coming out of the yard. The catalyst for the request for the stop signs was a close call that happened to involve both Eric Metzger, our yard manager, and Richard Stamen, the owner of the business, where they were making a left turn from Walnut Street into the yard. A car was coming down First Street and was making what would be a left turn from First onto Walnut. There not being a stop sign there, and there not being a stop sign at the intersection of Walnut and First. The reality of what we're trying to address is that turn. And so as we gave it more thought and we discussed it here internally, I don't think our request is to keep a stop sign on First Street and to only have the stop sign on Walnut Street engaged for that left turn. And I think a good example of that in town, although it has 2 lanes of traffic as opposed to 1, is that stop that you're required to make at the end of Washington Boulevard onto Market Street. And so if you're making the right turn there, Washington Boulevard onto Market, you just go. If you're looking to make a left turn there, you have to stop. Now, we're not contesting Mr. Livermore's findings that the traffic volume on this intersection is different than that or other intersections, but nevertheless, given that it's a 90-degree turn, and the only reason someone would be turning left is to come into our yard, we thought that might be a way to address everyone's issues. So the people living on First Street who are concerned about getting slowed down, either entering First Street or exiting First Street, we're okay with them not being subject to a stop. But if a truck or vehicles looking to turn left into our yard, we would want that stop there to avoid the type of situation that the near miss that Richard had that triggered this request in the first place created. So I don't know how Mr. Livermore feels about that or other people feel about it, but as we discussed it internally, we thought that this would be a way to allow everyone to have their concerns addressed. It would be a very, well, it wouldn't be any impact at all to anybody living on First Street because they would just roll down Walnut, turn right onto First, or they would roll down First and turn left onto Walnut, unimpeded as they always have. But in terms of the type of vehicles, which are large trucks, making that left-hand turn onto our property at the end of Walnut, it would give that pause and that check and that level of safety that we're looking to have in light of the near miss that that happened here recently. And we can't think of any objection to that from the First Street residents because they're back to what they had before. And we think it could handle our concern in a way that doesn't impact anybody, but mitigates against that near miss potential. So we're kind of changing our request in light of the experience that's been gathered over the last 90 days, but doing it in a way that still is in the best interest of everyone who lives and works down that way. So that's our proposal for you guys to contemplate and consider and hopefully agree with us, makes sense.
Okay, Mike, John Winder, do you have anything to add to this?
No, that was Mike's idea and I agree. I liked it right off the bat. We were trying to think of some signage that would work for everybody and I agree. And I think that would work for everybody.
Okay, and Jim Crawford, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add at this time. Thank you, though.
Okay, Scott, under the circumstances, when the study was done on the stop sign, was anything done with that?
So it was never, I guess, looked at it at the way they just described it. I'm sitting here contemplating it through my head to understand what safety, the safety issue where we're trying to fix. So I mean, I can look further into that. I see what they're saying, take down the stop sign at along First, heading down to First, heading up the Walnut. That traffic would flow. It's coming down to Walnut, that where that stop sign would be considered for the people coming out of Stamens, correct?
Yeah, it would be going into Stamens only.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of how traffic has traditionally flowed down that way, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because no one would have continued to go straight on First.
Yeah.
And no one would have continued to go straight on Walnut. They would have made a right turn onto First or a left turn onto Walnut. The only people who would be required to stop are those who are coming onto our property.
Yeah, making the left.
And which is a private property, but in terms of how people are looking for traffic patterns and how people are seeing the flow of traffic, that pause might really help save a life or avoid an accident.
Okay. It makes sense. I can look into that and we can get back with you on what our findings are, what we come up with. I mean, I like that idea. I think, you know, that leaves traffic run, the normal public run as normal. It's only hindering the Stamen trucks to where when they have to come up, they have to stop in order to make that left. Correct? So that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's our idea, Mr. Livermore, and it's one that, you know, obviously it's the volume that comes into our yard, right? I mean,
Yep.
you're not going to have a traditional volume driven issue, but I think you have a safety concern addressed.
Okay, yeah, I will look into this a little bit more and I'll get back with you guys. For sure.
And Scott will look into this because he's done it before and he knows the studies that have to be done. So if you could bear with us while this is looked into, and Scott will get in touch with you and let us know in Public Works also.
Yep.
That would be great, and we certainly appreciate your willingness to consider it. I think the way it's at Washington Boulevard, it says stop, except right turn. I mean, there are different ways to word that, and we'll defer to the public safety experts on that, but that's the thought. You know, and I think in a neighborhood like this, that's a mixed commercial residential neighborhood, it's a nice compromise.
Okay.
And I think you all realize too that the neighborhood was upset with the stop sign.
Yeah, and it was never Stamen's intent to upset anyone. We appreciate all the neighbors that we have down that way. And as we were trying to balance the issues here, we thought this was a way to make everyone happy.
Okay, sounds good to me. Bear with us, gentlemen, and Scott will get back to you as soon as he does a study.
Thank you very much.
And the stop signs are coming down either tonight or tomorrow, okay? So you're well
Understood in
aware
the
of
short
that.
term, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Barney,
fantastic.
I have one question for Scott. Just, would you have to do another traffic study, or are you going to consider that?
Not so much. I mean, I kind of got my data that I'm gonna have for it. I'm just trying to figure out how I can make that one stop sign that's for the Stamens folks that coming in and out of that.
Because whether they were going right or left, they would have to queue up single file.
Well, if basically that one on Walnut Street, the stop sign would stay stop, no left turns. But I think that I got to look into it to see how PennDOT would require us to have that wording on there to make it work. But yeah, I'm just running that through my head, you know.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, thanks.
Vince, do you have any questions?
No questions. I mean, what Mr. Wiley said, you know, on its merit right now seems like a logical and cogent request, one that's based off of public safety for everybody. So, you know, I certainly see merit in it.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure talking to you. And like I said, Scott Livermore will get back to you as soon as possible. Okay?
That's awesome. Thank you for your time. Would you mind terribly if we cut out of your meeting at this point?
Oh, heavens, no.
All right. Enjoy the
Unless
rest.
you're interested in John Deere and a tractor and things like that.
Well, it looks like a fascinating agenda, and we were all sitting here saying we wish we could stay, but I think we have some metal. We have some metal to recycle. So
with bated breath, right?
Hey, have a good one, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you, Mike.
Take care now.
Next item on the agenda is another discussion on the parks. And this is John Sanders.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. So I want to pop up some pictures here. Chris, am I good to share?
Yes, you should be able to.
All righty. So what I did a few months ago is I put out a contract to the world to possibly resurface 6 sets of courts within the city. So those 6 courts would be, and that's not, don't worry about what you're looking at here. I'm just gonna go through them real quickly. Youngs Woods basketball court, there's 1 court there. Shaw Park basketball court, there's 1 court there. Memorial Park basketball court, 1 court. Memorial Park pickleball, there's a couple courts there too. Shaw Park tennis court, there's 4 there. And then there's a Cochrane School tennis courts, there's 3 there.
John, none of these pictures are rolling up and down at
I know,
all.
I'm not moving them quite yet. Give me a
Oh,
second.
okay.
So I just wanted to let you know what I did. We put out a contract to resurface a set of 6 courts, basically from the west end of the city all the way to the east. And I'm gonna go through some photos of these courts. So this is one of them right here, Shaw Tennis Courts, as they currently look as of last week. Obviously, you can tell they're not in the best shape. In fact, they're unplayable, as you can see.
Kind of looks like a mess.
It looks like a mess. The best way to describe it. During the summer, there's weeds that are probably about yay high growing. So you can't play tennis there at all. Obviously, there's no nets. There's 4 courts there. That's one of them, the courts that's on the contract, all 4 of them. I'm gonna scroll down to the next one, which would be Shaw basketball court. Not in the worst shape, but there's no surface left, and there's ponding, as you can see. It had just rained that day. The basketball hoops are leaning 10 to 15 degrees. I don't know. I know he recently received some basketball hoops from the Air Force. We're looking to put up sometime soon. The next court is Youngs Woods basketball. Again, not in the best shape, ponding after rain, extensive cracking, as you can see it there, throughout the entire court. No surface, just bare asphalt. This would be Cochrane Tennis Court. There's 3 courts there, not owned by the city, but we are right now working on an agreement to allow, possibly if this goes through, to allow us to do the work to resurface that court as well, that set of 3 courts as well. And the last couple aren't quite as bad. Was Memorial's pickleball court as of last week. Just a little ponding there. Overall, not in the worst shape. And Memorial's basketball court as well. So obviously Mayor Slaughter is very big on recreation, and it's difficult to play any sports on a handful of those courts, or actually you can't play sports on a handful of those courts because just because. So anyway, I put out a contract a few months ago, and I got 2 bidders on the job. They've already been publicly opened. So we have a bid. The city has a bid for $858,000 to resurface all of those courts. Monies would come from a combination of ARPA and CDBG, and there are also some potential sizable private donations as well. So I just wanted to kind of put that out to everyone. There's the low bidder was RC Bowman out of Mill Hall. I made it mandatory that they had 2 or 3 similar project experiences in the past, and they have. If you have that email and information handy, you can see they did one, and well, they did 3 or 4 of them, but they sent me a picture from Juniata College they did a couple years ago. So they are more than competent to do the job. We're not voting on this. I'm not bringing this Thursday or anything. I just wanted to put this in front of you. So again, about $858,000. Roughly 100,000 of it would be community development, and the rest would be a combination of ARPA. And I know Mayor Slaughter is working on some private donations. And that's
John,
that's all I have on the court resurfacing.
One of the problems in Memorial Park, that always ponds.
Yeah.
It always does. I don't care where you're at in that park. You get a heavy rain and it ponds. But the interesting thing is, it was Gabe Campana that put the pickleball court up. He was way ahead of his time, before we all realized how big this sport was going to get. Now, you and I discussed that you were going to see about maybe it's one of the basketball courts in one of the parks, turn that into a pickleball.
Correct. Yeah, we were looking to take a couple. It's like, for instance, on your screen in front of you, you have 4 tennis courts. We may swap 2 of those out to be pickleball. We may take the one at Memorial and make them 2 basketball and put another pickleball somewhere else. Those are all options with the contract that I have, and it could get voted down or not even taken to you, but with the contract that I have, the contract is to open up the fence, this is in totality for the whole 858,000. Open up the fence, mill out 1.5 inches, repave 1.5 inches, and put complete new surface down. Sportmaster or equivalent, and Sportmaster is the product they use for the US Open. So that's the level of quality that we're gonna get if this goes any further.
You're
So,
talking the nets,
talking the surface itself. It's called.
just the surface itself. This has nothing to do with the nets.
No, I'm guessing Scott and his guys have the nets stored away somewhere right now.
How good would those nets be because some of these have not been up for a while, have they?
I currently don't know where the nets are. Maybe Scott's Parks guys would, but we could look into that. But this would get the courts playable again. I don't know, Scott, you have any idea where these nets might be?
I don't, right now. I mean, obviously, some of them we can probably use again, some of them we'll have to purchase. But I guess the first step is to see if this, obviously we can get these things back to playable. Like I've been out at Shaw quite often this last year. And it's like a graveyard. There's nothing out there. Nobody wants to do anything there. I think this would be a great thing to start getting a facelift with the splash pad we have out there now. It's just going to be a good thing to happen. But yeah, I mean, as far as the stuff that you need to have for these courts, I mean, the price of a net, a couple $100 to get a nice net back up is, minimal to the cost of trying to get this thing fixed up. So, I mean, if that's where it comes down to, it's what it will come down to is, getting a few nets, not a big deal. We do have some, don't know the shape, but it's been a while for these nets for sure that's been out.
That's what I assumed.
Mayor Slaughter couldn't be here today. He's out and about, actually out of the city today. So, but he just wanted me to show you guys this and mentioned that he also has some possible private donations coming as well. So
He's at the inauguration.
he is at the inauguration, correct?
Yes. Any questions from Randy or Vince?
Do you have a ballpark figure of how much would be ARPA?
Yes. So yes, I do, but that doesn't take into account any donations. And from what I've heard, some of them could be sizable. So of this $858,000 contract, it'd be almost 100,000, exactly 750,000 will be ARPA with it, and then some of that could be lessened by any private donations that Mayor Slaughter is working on.
All right, so it's kind of in flux then.
And it is a little higher than we would have thought, just because of the with community development money, there has to be federal wage rates.
Right.
So I had to put the contract out with federal wage rates. So.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Vince?
Yes, if I may. So not to, I think that it's a great idea to look at resurfacing these courts. We need recreational outlets. We need things for the youth of our communities to be able to go out and do that is, positive. We all know that for the most part, when children left to their own devices, they tend to get in trouble. So if we're able to have viable, healthy recreational outlets for them, that's great. I think it's a great idea. I did have a couple quick questions. John, Cochran School tennis courts, we all know that they are desperately in need of resurfacing. Those courts are in horrible condition. However, they do not belong to the city. They're part of the school district.
Yep.
And just to give you a quick rundown, so I know what I looked at is I added up the square footage in total of everything that we'd be looking to resurface. So I took the $858,000 divided by the approximate 64,300 square feet in total, just to give me a roundabout idea of what it would cost per square foot when we're looking at resurfacing.
Yep.
It comes out to approximately $13.34.5. I rounded up to 35 cents per square foot. So, if you apply that $13.35 to the tennis courts at Cochran School, it comes out to about $224,413.50. I can't help but wonder, why would the city take on that cost of resurfacing those tennis courts when they don't belong to us? that I would love to see them resurfaced, but why would we take on that financial burden of paying for that when it's really, it's a responsibility of the school district?
Yeah, I know there's some other, Mayor Slaughter was working on some donations, not only from individuals, but also entities. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Not just people, but also some entities. So I don't have an answer to that. It's a fantastic question, but he's not here today, so it's a good point you make, though. They are not, in fact, are not our property.
Exactly.
You are right.
Again, you're talking to somebody I'm sure at some point in time, you know, I'm in that neighborhood. I would love to go down there and take a shot at trying to play tennis. Anybody would happily come and watch and laugh at me attempting that. So I would certainly take advantage of those courts had they been, you know, if they're redone. It's just I'm looking at it. You know, the quick breakdown, again, if you apply that $13.35 per square foot, Young's Woods basketball courts, 6,400 square feet, you're at approximately $85,440. Shaw Park basketball, $66,616.50. Memorial Park basketball, $55,402.50. Memorial Park pickleball, $79,432.50. The Shaw Park tennis courts, $347,100.
Yep.
And Cochran tennis courts, $224,413.50.
And I have all those totals in front of me as well, and you are pretty much spot on with those. Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's not exact. I figured it wouldn't be exact. It was just pretty quick. So just to give us all an idea of exactly what resurfacing these courts would cost, and I think it's a great idea. Just want to make sure that everyone's aware. I still just had a couple questions and, you know, concerns about us paying for things that ultimately are the school's responsibility. You know, and I think it's a great initiative by the mayor to work with and by private citizens or entities or whomever they may be that want to donate the money to have those courts resurfaced. I'd like to see at least something that the city may get in return from the school district potentially. If we're the ones that are doing the legwork to get this done, when really it's not even, it's something that the school district should be doing, right?
I think the one in particular at Cochran was actually one of the larger private donations, but I don't want to take words out of Mayor Slaughter's mouth. I'll just wait till.
Okay.
If this goes any further, if it gets traction, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yep. And yeah, we need to spend those ARPA dollars. This would certainly be something great. I also did have just a couple quick concerns regarding, you know, you mentioned briefly that you may move pickleball court or add basketball courts or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how far that discussion got, but I do remember, you know, when Mayor Campana was in office, initially took those courts down at Memorial and put in pickleball courts because Bonnie, Randy, could you help me? What was the cause? What was the reason why those were turned into pickleball courts?
Because everything in that park with the basketball hoops was nothing but trash left behind. It was a mess that Streets and Parks had to take care of to clean up, even though you know, they put trash barrels up all over the place. None of the people that were using the basketball courts paid attention to that. There was also the way people were handling their language, and also, Randy, I'm pretty sure we were told there were also a lot of fights that were going on at that point also. So there was a lot of not good behavior, and that's why they were taken down.
I guess, thank
Randy,
you very much, Bonnie.
Randy, do you have anything to add to that? Because that's what I can remember.
Yeah, I mean, those were, there were some problems. I think, you know, a separate discussion is what's the best way to handle that? Is it tear down the hoops, you know, or is there some middle ground? But that's the solution that the administration went with at that time.
Yeah.
And it was done so quickly. None of us had any,
Yeah, it was like overnight.
yeah,
We
exactly.
found
We were all
out
kind
about
of
it.
shocked.
Well, obviously, I don't know what the condition is of the courts down there now that they've been eliminated. Now that you've eliminated one basketball court and put in pickleball courts, Scott, are you guys finding that you're having a lot of litter, trash that you have to clean up now? What with only having one basketball court?
I mean, the way it seemed to be last summer, I mean, we go down, maybe once a week, pick up a few things. I mean, for the most part, they are using the trash cans, but you're always gonna have that few that's.
You
gotta
always
clean up,
have those knuckles.
lights, things of that nature, but it's. In my experience, like this past year wasn't too terrible, like so once a week or once every 2 weeks, I'd say, come over here and clean this up, but. That's about it.
Thank you. I guess, John, what I'm getting at is, before we would look to move the pickleball courts and potentially put in another basketball court, and I would just, as I'm sure you and Scott and the mayor and the administration are all, thinking about, I would just hate to see us move those pickleball courts, put in another basketball court in its place, and find ourselves right back with those same problems. So just something to think about. That's all. Thank you.
John, I have a question. You said you got the hoops from the Air Force?
Yes, Mayor Slaughter has, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, we have a handful of hoops stored in the, out back here, is that correct?
Yes, well, I haven't actually stored over at Memorial. They're the Air Force ones that they ordered. They're glass backboards, which is gonna have their logo on them. So kind of they sponsored, they'll have a court kind of that they sponsored with their stuff on it. But yeah, they purchased some hoops for us to upgrade some of our hoops that we do have.
Interesting. Randy, do you have any questions?
No, I have no more. Nope.
Okay, John, are you going to go to the next one?
Yeah, one more discussion item here. Can everyone see that thing I just moved in front? Can you see this email right here?
Yes.
Okay, so, and back in October, actually a little before that, we were approached by the National Fitness Campaign for a possible workout pad to be used anywhere in the city. So after discussions with them, we put in for a grant for it, and we were awarded it if we wanted to accept it, and ultimately it would have to be accepted by council. It's an interesting workout pad. Essentially, it's a 34 by 34 foot square concrete pad that this company puts their workout equipment on. And we were, like I said, we were awarded the grant if we wanted to accept it. And there is a little short video, if I can play it real quick, to show you what this court is, if you guys didn't watch it already. But it's pretty cool, actually. These courts are popping up all over the United States. They just put one in Berwick and then one over Scranton Way. They're almost in every state in the US. They have a huge initiative to promote fitness all over the United States. So if you guys don't mind, it's a quick video, if that's all right with you guys.
Or
is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. This will essentially tell you exactly what it is, all in one short video. Now, yeah, 3-minute video.
We're changing the way America thinks about fitness. From college campuses to city parks and trails, we're bringing free fitness everywhere, and we're just getting started. Hi, I'm Mitch Managhi, founder of the National Fitness Campaign. National Fitness Campaign was founded in 1979 when we opened the first fitness home. Redesigned for the 21st century, the fitness court is the world's best outdoor gym. Our 7-movement, 7-minute system allows you to use your own body weight to get the perfect workout. Easy or hard, it will work for you. Our goal is to build healthy communities by making outdoor fitness an essential part of people's lives so that each day is better than the last. Now more than ever before, it is vital that we move fitness outdoors to remain safe, healthy, and strong.
Michiganders, as soon as we can, we go on site, which is one of the reasons why the fitness court was such an attraction. What impressed us most was their basic philosophy that they want to provide world-class fitness for free. Truly, anyone can use, no matter what your age is, no matter what your physical fitness level is, no matter what your skills are, it is very adaptable.
Thousands of certified ambassadors will be trained to deliver classes and challenges and clinics as part of our national fitness campaign. New programs are bringing students outdoors across America. The Fitness Court mobile app is your gateway to enroll in these programs. Simply scan the new digital wall with your phone to access a library of free workouts designed to optimize your experience on the fitness court. Learn the moves and take challenges as we dig deep to create impact for our partners across America. This year, we are thrilled to introduce Fitness Court Public Arts. Cities have the opportunity to select a local artist to design their fitness court using the power of the arts and fitness outdoors in iconic public spaces. We're proud to have helped cities of all sizes raise millions of dollars from respected sponsors to support free fitness. Wherever fitness is a priority, you can find a fitness. We're partnering with large cities using urban movement data to map the best locations for healthy infrastructure. We're bringing fitness courts to within 10 minutes of population centers everywhere.
They provide these wraparound services that, from a city's perspective, that's what you want in a partner like this. You want it to come, present it to you on a silver platter with a bow tied around it. They're one of the best partners, I think, that I personally have ever worked with.
We serve almost 1.2 million members across Michigan. And this partnership really is an opportunity for us to bring scalable, free health and wellness opportunities for our community. So I would actually invite cities and organizations, big and small, to explore the opportunity to invest in fitness courts. To be very honest with you, the feedback from different municipalities and different communities has been very positive.
We're committed to raise $150 million to bring the campaign to 1,000 cities and schools, building the largest fitness movement in the world. Join us. Let's make world-class fitness free.
So that's kind of the court in a nutshell there. Like I said, if we wanted to, we can accept it, and we're not voting on anything. This is just discussion item. Location would be, right? Can you guys see my screen here?
It's there, John.
Okay, this would be the location. This National Fitness Campaign likes locations that are visible, have accessibility, have parking. And this location here in Memorial Park, just southeast of the basketball and pickleball courts, would be the location we would put it. Their logo goes on the back, so they get some visibility there. We also have the ability to, if we wanted to have any other person or entity's logo on it as well. I know Mayor Slaughter is looking at possibly some large scale contributions from medical folks possibly on this. So again, not voting on it, we're just going to put it out there. It's they're pretty aggressive, the National Fitness Campaign folks, and they really liked this location, and they'd like to put one of these in our city. So in regards to these, the kit, the install, roughly to cost to make it happen, $150,000. This is a 36 by 36 concrete pad, 4 inches thick. The parts are warranted, 25 years on the wall that you saw in that video, and about 5 years on all the equipment. So like I said, Mayor Slaughter is looking for some contributions or some partnerships with some other entities in the city, but they're still being worked out. So any questions?
Randy?
They want it in a visible place so that it will get used more. Is that the?
Yes, use,
Yeah.
then other folks can see there, so they can spread them all around this the country, I would assume.
Right.
You can see right
Yeah.
there on the image that it says right on it, fitness court has interactive apps. So if you, whether you have an Android phone or iPhone, you can plug it in and it tells you how to work out on that pad right there.
Yeah, and I think Memorial Park makes sense with all the other activities that go on there. You have the pool and everything. So, and yeah, I see the value of it. It's you're not you don't have a lot of expensive machinery, but you're getting the same kind of workout that you would otherwise, so. Yeah, it's worth exploring.
I was smiling when I saw the flashback of the original fitness campaign workout set that they used to have back in the woods behind Cochran School.
Yeah.
Yep, and I remember going over and running around on that as a kid. So I'm happy to see that it's still out there and that it's obviously it's got a little bit of a facelift and some more modern materials that are going to be able to stand up. But I think it's a great idea. I hope it would be well received by the community.
Well, John did get a $30,000 grant, and what's left to get donation would be $150,000. And that's, I think this is what the mayor is looking for, to have a donation instead of
Right.
using any kind of funds. Am I correct in that assumption, John?
Correct. It'd be, it's still up in the air. We're exploring possible ARPA, exploring possible donations. Everything's still an option at this moment. We just wanted to get it out there. The National Fitness Campaign are very aggressive in wanting us to get this done. So,
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, it's a discussion that we've had here, and I think, eventually when you get more information as far as donations go, and as far as what kind of money and everything we're talking about, both projects, the parks and this, then we, you can bring it to council at that point.
Yep.
And like I said to you, one of the other things, since, we're all going into all this fitness and trying to, make our city healthier, that I would really like to see the Heart Walk, as I said to you the other day, John, do the Heart Walk that's been done downtown, which is a measured mile that the hospital did. And I think all that needs is paint. And that's, and it is a viable option. It really is. And as I said to you, there were a lot of people that were using the Heart Walk during their lunch hours. So, if we continue doing things to bring fitness into our city, I think it'd be fantastic.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's go after
I think one of the reasons the Heart Walk might have went away a little bit is with the River Walk, up and coming and now what it is. But yeah, that's a good point. The Heart Walk is a fantastic way to get exercise downtown.
Exactly. And if when I did it, it took me less than 20 minutes, and I wasn't running. I was just walking. So, and if you have a half-hour lunch, that's, you can do it in a half hour without leaving your office and just doing that. Other than that, let's, see where the mayor goes in pursuing the cost factors and the donations with both these projects. I think the parks, I think, is a much needed to be done, instead of having these parks that look so horrible. They really do look horrible. And it would be interesting to have this all done. Like I said to you, though, the Memorial Park, be careful, it does pond. It really does.
We actually have, and if we take it to council, we have it in the contract to repave it, to slope it properly, to drain per the specifications of that particular sport. So I have that written in the contract itself, if we get to the point where we're going to award it. So.
And it would have to be the same thing if we went into this fitness, the NFC.
Yep.
Because going closer even to the pool, you've been around the city long enough, how it does the whole area of ponds. That used to be water. When you look at the history of Memorial Park, that was a lake at one point. I don't remember the years that was done, but it was a pond. And I think that's where, some of the problems stand. And that's something that I think you're going to have to be aware of with the NFC, and also fixing things up. So, but if there's no other questions about this, thank you, John. Thank you, Scott. We'll go on to the next item on the agenda. The next item is resolution authorizing the purchase of a Defender pool filter utilizing ARPA funds. Scott, that's up to you at this point.
Okay, what I bring forward to you today is a resolution to authorize a Defender pool filter for the Memorial Pool. This was part of this was around a little discussion here at the end of last year. Did some research on the filter we do have and found a bunch of potential health risks to the employees and anyone working around it potentially. This pool filter has actually been in for 52 years. The filters have changed, but the system's been stayed the same over the last 1971 since the pool was put in. So obviously, this is in dire need of an upgrade for the employees and the kids that actually swim there. If it's Waters, the company that will be doing the work, the amount for the pool filter is $268,804.55. Will be coming out of Public Works future projects line item. So, yeah, any questions on it?
Randy?
No, I wish we should have done this when the whole thing was being done, but I'm not sure how this escaped being addressed at that point. But in any case, yeah, it's way past its due date. So, but so it's coming from the okay, the ARPA Public Works Future Projects lineup. Okay. No, I don't have any questions about this.
Vince, any questions?
Nope, seeing the source of the funds, and then we'd had a discussion about this a while back, comparing this system to our current system and how potentially unhealthy our current pool filtration system actually is.
Right.
I think this is a much needed solution.
Scott, did this go through the solicitor?
Yes, it did. Sorry. Yep.
Because the only thing that I would question is not to exceed $268,804. Or
yeah, it won't exceed that. We are doing some of the work in-house, which is small minor stuff. It's concrete stuff that's going to take us a day to do. But this is the contractor that actually this contractor just got done putting a same filter system in, like I'm in college. Fortunately, I just happened to talk to the guy and he's like, I got a guy over here working right now. So he came over, looked at our situation, they got it. And this is the all-in price.
Okay.
Obviously the new electrical is going to tie in real nice to this and any of the new upgrades that we already done. I mean, I get it. It would have been nice to find this, to Randy's point, a while ago, when we were actually doing the work, but luckily these guys are ready to actually move in to look at it Thursday to start getting moving on it. Cause they had to they have to order this stuff and get it moving, but it's going to be honestly, once they start doing the work, it'd probably be about a month and it's going to be ready to go. So I'll be plenty of time. I won't be pushing like I was last year hopefully on the opening, because I want to get a full pool season in this year.
that would be wonderful. The pool is healthy then?
Yes.
We have no problems with the pool.
Nope, it's holding water still as we speak throughout the winter. So problem seems to be fixed.
And another question that I have, do we have somebody certified?
We do.
Okay.
I have an in-house Vanessa here that works with me, the project or the office manager. She is certified to test and administer chemicals.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay.
but actually, Skip or Scott, I'm looking at Skip's name on it. Actually, I wasn't referring to the most recent work. I was referring to the original redoing of the whole pool.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
How that escaped our attention back then. That should have been part of that whole project.
I got you.
At that point. But it wasn't. So you're left to deal with it. So no, I'm in favor of it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, if there is no other questions, we'll move on to the next Item on the agenda, number 4, resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2020 John Deere. Okay, 4066R compact utility tractor.
You
Yeah,
must have had one of those before.
You did.
Bonnie must have. She just ripped that right off.
Yeah, so what I bring forward to you is a resolution to authorize the purchase of a 2020 John Deere 4066 compact utility tractor. So yes, it's 2020. It's not used. It is brand new. It's a leftover. I've seen that. I was looking at that. I was like, well, this ain't a new tractor, what it is. What this is basically is we already have one of these identical. I put it in the budget for this year to purchase. This was on and off for the last couple of years. My understanding has been taken off. Got it through this year. We are taking this tractor and replacing a 1993 John Deere 5300 tractor that's had its full life service, here. So it's time to upgrade and try to keep the new things coming in to help these guys better do what they do in the parks, the mowing. We did it. We're doing a trade-in on this tractor. We got $3,500 for it through this company. The original price of the tractor, I believe, is like 49 some change. The number we got that we're buying it for is $46,470. This is part of the capital projects out of the parks line item. It's 8054-84039 is the number. Any questions on this?
Randy.
That where the money that went into that, where did that come from? That went into that line item?
So I had it put into my general fund dollars as part of what I would like to have kept in there. And it's into the capital projects right now. So after this year, every year, I don't have it pulled up right now, there'll be I don't know, $2,000, say, not that will be saved every year to replace this tractor. So it's put in capital project because this is a purchase that I will have to replace after a 15-year span.
Okay.
So the money that I had out of general fund got slid over into capital projects for me to purchase my equipment. That way I'm saving for it every year after I purchase it. 2023 is the year that I purchased this tractor. And 15 years from now is when I'll upgrade this tractor again out of the capital projects.
Okay, so you're on a schedule then. Okay, great. Thank you, Scott.
Vince, any questions?
Just one. John, I'm sorry, Scott. Why do we always go with John Deere?
In this tractor, I had the same problem here a couple weeks ago. I'm thinking, why are we using all John Deere? For this one, the size of this tractor is what I wanted to stay with John Deere because we already have one. We do have two smaller John Deeres that I'm considering looking at other type smaller mowers, but they're not at their lifeful span yet. So that is being under consideration. John Deere's sure they always used. But I mean, I came in and looking at other vendors and what we found for what we're needing. The reason why we're buying this tractor, I guess, is all the implements that we have will bolt up to this. We have a front bucket for the other John Deere we have that will bolt up to this also. So I don't have to buy a front load bucket for this one because we have one we can mix and match. As far as our bigger tractors. Now, like I said, once we get in once I start replacing our smaller mowers, there's where I'm going to look into potentially see what else is out there, see what else is on the market, see who's going to be the better bang for the buck, what's the best equipment for what we can do. But yeah, I mean, I get your point and why you asked that because we do have nothing but John Deere's, and that's been working in my mind too on why.
Yeah,
this is the reason why for this.
I thought, maybe obviously you guys do your due diligence that a Deere might be the best bang for its buck. having a fleet of nothing but John Deere certainly makes it easier to order parts, have,
It has it, yeah,
components.
yes.
Yeah.
It has its benefits, however. I like to try to keep the business, keep them honest, because they just assume, well, they're gonna buy another one, this is what the price is gonna be. So I try to venture out, and then which I did in the next resolution, you'll find that I changed up a little bit, went with another company, but.
Gotcha. Okay, that was the only question I had, Bonnie. Thanks, Scott.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll go on to the next item on the agenda. On number 5, resolution authorizing the purchase of a new 450/25 Steiner tractor. Scott, you're up.
Okay, so yeah, what I have for you is a resolution to authorize the purchase of a new 450 Steiner tractor, which what this is a tractor that our flood control uses to mow the levees. It's a specialty piece of equipment that can handle a 2-to-1 slopes that stays on the slopes of our levee system to keep them cut and mowed. This tractor is $41,887. The alternative to this tractor would have been a vent track, which is pretty much the same thing. Has a lot of the same features. I reached out to a vent track dealer. I pretty much saved, and I reached out to the Steiner dealer, and I had them both here. Actually, we're gonna drive around one tomorrow to really take a look at it, but there's pretty much $5,000 savings in this between the vent track and the Steiner. Vent track's around 46,000, the Steiner's at 41,000, pretty much with the same stuff. This will replace our Hillside machine, which is a 1999 Hillsider. I did not opt into doing a trade-in because they really don't want it. So I'm going to it'll pretty much go in this bid here after we get things rolling and everything set, but that's where we're at with that. This did everything. I didn't say, but everything did go through our solicitor. Any questions?
Randy,
I do not, no.
Vince,
No, Steiner's a pretty beefy tractor. If I'm thinking of the correct Steiner, you're talking about 8 tires.
Yep.
2 tires to each
axle.
Axle. Well, yeah. So obviously a real wide platform, good stability, like you said, for mowing the hills on the dike. So they certainly built for it.
Yep.
Scott, since this is a new tractor, is there a guarantee on any of this or?
There's a warranty on it.
Thank you. I meant to say warranty.
Yeah.
Wrong terminology.
I didn't say too, so the funding, this was obviously capital projects out of the flood, which was going into my equipment line item out of the general fund. Same terminologies I had with the tractor with capital projects, everything was pulled over. I estimated 52,000 into the general fund for this. But this tractor, I got it for 41, which is going to allow me to also buy a flail mower. If you look back into the equipment stuff I needed for the flood for the year, so. Probably muddied the water up there a little bit, but makes sense to me.
Okay. Okay. I think there is no other questions. Scott, I thank you very much, but there is a warranty on this, so we don't have to worry about that.
Yep, warranty on this and the John Deere, yes. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. Number 6 on the agenda, resolution awarding levee pump station design services to GPI. John Sanders, you are up.
Yes, thank you again, Bonnie. Staying on the levy here for a second, let me take a step back actually and kind of go through what's going on with our levy. Right now we have our 2 biggest priorities are our relief wells, which the county is rebidding out any day now. They're gonna bid it out for a couple months this time, advertise the contractors for several months. They've bid it out, I think 3 or 4 times now, and the bids have come too high. So that's getting dealt with right now. In addition to that, what you know is wood is no longer wood. There are WSP, that we have 2 separate contracts, one with the city, one with the county, for our next biggest item on our levy, which is our cross pipes. So we'll be replacing the worst cross pipes in our levy system. Those are the 2 worst things, cross pipes and relief wells. So with those moving along, and the next item would be our pump stations. So we have, the city has 9, the city levy system has 9 pump stations. I say city levy system because our city levy system extends into Old Lycoming and over into Lowestoft as well. So what I'm looking to do here is hire a engineering firm to upgrade 3 of the 9 pump stations to have new switch gear that's automated and also have a backup generator, which was recommended back in 2016, 17. There are times our levy gets inspected once every year and then an in-depth inspection once every 5 years. There are times when it gets inspected that the pump stations don't turn on. That's not a good thing. So that's why we're doing this, upgrading the switch gear and adding a backup literally a standalone backup generator next to the pump station. So in the event during a flood or a catastrophe, the pump station can still run and pump water from inside the city out. So I put this out last summer. I was holding on to it because I was warding it because I wanted to look to see how some other levy items were shaking out. But I had 5 proposals on this endeavor, and they ranged from $59,000 to $240,000. If you have a proposal in front of you from GPI, they're a very solid firm, top 70 firm in the United States as far as engineering is concerned. They're eager to begin. This would be hiring them for $60,000, and the funding would be through ARPA. We currently have 2.1 million budgeted through ARPA, and we are at 1.7 million left, so we're in good shape. This will ultimately spur a construction contract that'll be in the $1 to $1.5 million range, and we'll deal with that when we get to it. But paying for that would be maybe a combination of ARPA and the other congressional item that's not quite public yet. I'll just leave it at that. So if you have GPI, so sorry for the long-winded speech, but GPI proposal, you can see they're pretty solid. They've done a lot of design work in Canonsburg, Philadelphia, Warren, a whole bunch in Scranton, and they're pretty solid. They submitted on the $500,000 contract that I call them Wood, but WASP currently has with Lycoming County a couple years back, and they're pretty solid. So so I tried to switch it up, give it to a new company, and that's why I'm here trying to award this to GPI. So it'd be for designing for, like I said, automated switchgear and new and additional power. The switchgear, as it currently stands, our Scott's gentlemen have to go into the pump station, wait for the river or stream to get to a certain height and turn it on. This would be automatic. So it senses the height of the water and turns on automatically. So it takes that out of the equation. If you have the proposal in front of you, you can see they have extensive experience all over PA. So any questions?
Randy?
No, I don't. I know we've had problems with, particular pump stations, and they are, we can't afford to have an incident. So this has to be done.
If I may, I have a question, John.
Yeah.
When you mentioned that there were certain pump stations and when tested, they didn't even turn on.
That's correct.
Those particular pump stations that did not turn on, are those pump stations that would be pumping volume of water out that had been carried down by, say, Graphius Run?
No, that one. So Graphius Run ultimately gets to Hepburn Street. That one's not the one.
Okay.
So no, not that one. No.
No, we had Graphius had some pretty severe flooding over the past couple of years, and I wasn't sure if maybe
Yeah.
partially caused by the pump station that's attached to Graphius not turning on at the
No.
required time.
No, that's not the one, but good question.
I do love seeing that they're each going to have redundant diesel powered backup generators, though. I think that's a very, very wise decision.
Yeah,
So,
that was recommended 7 or 8 years ago, and the city didn't have the money, and now we do, and we do, and we're gonna have more. We'll leave it at that. You know what I mean?
yeah. That's all the questions I had, Bonnie. Thank you.
John, there is no way that you have, I know we have cameras down by Graphius Run, which hopefully they are working, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about the ones up where our equipment is?
Right,
Yeah, they're working.
okay. So do we need any cameras put where the pump stations are?
It's a good question. I don't know.
No, I don't think so, Bonnie. I mean, so in the instances that were the handful of times where the Army Corps has come to inspect, it didn't turn on. An electrician came and fixed it relatively quickly, so it's not a media of a situation as Graphius Run is. In those areas, they're more controlled, and they're actually laid out and designed to hold a certain amount of water in ponds. So I don't think we would need a camera or some type of sensor at those locations. No.
Our
Okay.
guys, to piggyback off of that, our guys don't really respond to anything until the river levels on WNAP hit 10 feet. Usually, and that's pretty much well predicted, that we know usually in a day or two advance to when we know we're gonna have to get called to go out. And we don't wait for it to flood. Obviously, we at 10 feet, and it won't flood at 10 feet. It's just then that's where it requires manpower to be there as it stays over the 10-foot mark. So it's not as bad as Graphius has a mind of its own, and there's been days where it's sunny in town and it rains a lot up in Trout Run up north, and it'll flood it. And obviously we wouldn't know that because it's nice down here, but that's like I said, Graphius is a different animal than the river levels.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Just since we have the money available, just want to make sure that we're covering all of our bases.
Trust me, we're planning some very well, I'll be blunt. We're planning some expensive things for Graphius.
Okay. I know you've been working on funding, and Keller's been working on funding. So hopefully everything comes to fruition and the earmarks are working. So, okay, if nobody has any more questions, we're going to go to item 7, any related items. Does anybody have anything from council? Anybody from the administration have anything to add? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Fantastic. We'll see everybody
Take
on
care,
Thursday.
everybody.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone.
Hey, Chris, thanks for all that work you did over the weekend when the power flickered out downtown.
Yes.
Yeah, I
And,
really don't want to do that every weekend. Let's put it that way.
well, everything blinked out here at the restaurant for a moment and we thought, uh-oh. Then it all went back on, but it occurred to me it was going to be a much bigger deal for you guys.
You should be good to go now.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee meeting of Tuesday, December 6th, 2022. It is 1:03 p.m. and we are live on a digital platform. We have five items, excuse me, on today's agenda. And the first of those items is appointments. We're fortunate to have three individuals this time around who are interested in serving on different city boards and commissions. And we're interviewing two of them here today. So we'll go ahead and kick off with the appointment to the Zoning Hearing Board. Richard Carlson, I think I saw you with us. Can you, this is a very informal interview process. It's just, we want to have a brief discussion with you today about, what your hopes are for your service on the board, and then we'll represent those to City Council on Thursday when we'll actually vote on your appointment. But we won't be taking a vote here or anything like that. It's just a real quick conversation. So, Mr. Carlson, can you tell us a little bit about yourself to get started?
Sure. I'll work backwards. I retired about 18 months ago. My wife and I moved to Williamsport about 3 years ago because she found the house of her dreams here. Don't let your significant other look on Zillow because you'll end up in places like Williamsport. We came up from Virginia. We may be the only people who retired and moved north. But the impetus of, and I think you've seen my one-page bio, you'll find that over the course of my career, I've been a rules guy, having to balance technical business and legal issues across a number of business and technical fronts. But my interest in participating in the zoning board is once we moved to Williamsport, this is the first time in my life that I've had the opportunity to serve a community. Northern Virginia being so transient, it's very difficult to serve the community because it's usually maintained for those people who are solid in the community. So that was my interest in looking into how do I participate in the community, and this opportunity was presented to me. To that end, there's two things that we've done that I've done to further my participation in Williamsport. First off, I was a vote watcher, poll watcher during the most recent election. And then second, we offered up our house for the Victorian House Tour, which was an event in all by itself. So that's probably just in a nutshell of my interest of why I'd like to participate in the zoning board.
Well, sir, it seems as though you definitely already have an exquisite sense of how one becomes an active member of the community. There are people who never really make that discovery in the course of their lives, and then there are people who seem to be sort of naturally given to building community within the places that they settle. So we appreciate that you're so willing to invest yourself in Williamsport already. All right, I will open this up to the other members of the Finance Committee. Do you have any questions for Mr. Carlson?
I don't have any questions. I thank you as well. You're going to be a vital asset because it is one of our most important boards. It deals with the nuts and bolts of development. So we really appreciate you stepping forward. On another note, I might add, I did tour your house on Victorian Christmas weekend, and it had special meaning to me as my aunt lived in that house for about 30 years, back in the 60s to the mid 90s. So
and who is your aunt? Because I'm still looking at the history of this house.
Rachel Smith was her name.
We need to talk. I have some blanks I have to fill in.
Okay, I can help you do that.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Yeah, I have my house on the Victorian Christmas tour one year, and 2 or 3 people came through who had lived in it when it was an apartment. and it was very interesting to see that, to have these people come through who had lived there previously and have them tell me where different rooms have been located, et cetera, et cetera. It was fascinating. Anyway, Eric.
I do not have any questions. I do appreciate your willingness to step up, specifically being a new member to the community. That's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay. So I would assume Mr. Carlson, and I guess Mr. Colley is here as well, that the two of you have some experience with what serving on the zoning hearing board means, but it is kind of it's a quasi-legal position. And I think certainly with your background, Mr. Carlson, you'll be familiar with what that, with all that entails. But the decisions the zoning hearing board makes are really based in law, and many of them, whether or not they seem like the wisest idea, you're perhaps the most visually pleasing element, to members of the board, are required by law, and that is the way it has to be, which is why the zoning hearing board has a permanent solicitor that sits with the board at all of its meetings, and he's a great guy, by the way. But anyway, have you spoken with the administration about the meeting times and the general workload?
I have, and I want to thank Janice for sending me over the charter of the zoning board. So I got a chance to read through that, and it makes perfect sense to me.
Great. All right. Excellent. Then thank you very much for sitting down to talk with us today, sir, virtually as it may be. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you on the zoning hearing board here come Thursday. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So I understand we actually have all three new appointees to our boards here. Mr. Colley, you're also present?
I am.
Okay, so we'll be interviewing then next Scott Colley from 401 Woodland Avenue. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, sir, and your interest in in serving on the zoning hearing board?
Yes. So as you say, I live at 401 Woodland Avenue. I've lived in this residence for 29 years. I'm retired. I retired in 2017. I've lived in Williamsport close to 35 years. I relocated here from the South. I grew up in the South. And I was employed with Brodart Company for 22 years and with Construction Specialties for 5 years prior to retiring. Actually, I've had conversations with Bill Mealy. I've gotten to know Mr. Mealy casually, and we were just talking about various situations with city government, so on and so forth. And he informed me that he was on the zoning board and that they were looking for members to replace some of the outgoing present members. And I said, well, that's interesting. He said, do you have an interest in it? I said, certainly. Since my retirement, I've been attending city council meetings up until the pandemic, of course. So taking an active role in that. I'm interested in local politics. I think that's where everything actually begins. So that's, part of my interest here also, just my political interest background. So that's pretty much the background of it. Again, an invitation through Bill Mealy. I spoke with Gary Narr. He gave me some of the background information about the position, about the requirements, the fact that there is a educational situation within it that I believe he said it happens annually, which is fine. I'm all on board with that. I don't bring any specific experience or previous experience to this position, but I'm always willing to learn and keep an open mind and lean on the people who do have that experience.
Okay. Well, that's excellent. So you're saying that it's to Bill Mealy then that will pay the finder's fee on this one?
He will. He will.
Okay. No.
We cleared that up in the very beginning.
No, that's excellent. And I think I don't know. It's heartening to me to find that one of our current members of a board is recruiting folks who he believes will be suitable for the board as well. That's very helpful and good to know that he enjoys the service there. But yes, it is. It is there's definitely an educational component and a time commitment required. And I would encourage either of you, if you are at all interested, Mary Lou Baldes, who has just left the board. I want to say, Randy, she served for 25 years. Was that what we figured out?
Yes, I believe
On the
it.
zoning hearing board. Yeah, a phenomenal amount of time, and she's really an incredible resource. And if either of you were looking to sort of figure out historical information about the zoning hearing board, Mary Lou Baldes would certainly be the woman to talk to. She was remarkable. We thank you very much for your willingness to serve. And in terms of your interest in local politics, I think Randy and I can tell you that sometimes it's very interesting indeed, and sometimes not at all. But it's good to know that others in the city are interested in and following and keeping an eye on things. And Randy and Eric, anything to add?
I don't. I too thank you for being willing to come forward and serve the city and the whole area, and this type of commitment is important. And I appreciate you doing that.
Well, thank you.
Listen, I appreciate you stepping up and being willing to serve your community. And if there's anything out of place with zoning, I would imagine you would notice it on your walks that you take on a regular basis through the city. So thank you.
Yeah, pretty well mapped the city with all those walks.
It's an important thing to do. It's a good way to keep track of your town and the ways in which it's changing. I used to do a lot more of it before I had kids, but it's that's certainly I see people strolling through my neighborhood, and I think that those eyes in the community are valuable for noting the way that the community changes over time.
Yes.
If I hear nothing further, then we'll thank you very much, Mr. Colley, for coming to talk to us today, and we will look forward to voting to confirm you on Thursday.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you. And then we have one further person here in attendance, Maren Desaulniers, for the Board of Health. Hi, Maren, how are you doing?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. So Maren lives at 2113 West 3rd Street. And can you tell us a little bit about your interest in serving on the Board of Health and your experience?
Sure. I actually live at 2115 West 3rd.
Okay, I was.
But that's okay. I wasn't sure if it was important that you know that.
And I'm not sure. We usually have people announce their address for the record, and
Yeah.
and it occurred to me after I first started talking to Mr. Carlson, so I thought, well, I'll read this off the sheet. But 2115 it is. Sounds good.
That's right. Well, I'm a longtime resident of Williamsport. I just love this community. I love the mountains, the creeks, everything about it. I'm one of those people that, grew up and as a teenager were like, oh, I can't wait to get out of here. And then I left and then realized how much I loved the area. So after I graduated from college, my husband and I moved back about, I think it's been 7 years now. And I was really busy trying to get reestablished here, but I do have a lot more time available. And I've always wanted to give back to the community and serve my community. And ironically, I called Janice last week regarding some paperwork and an issue that I needed to speak with her about. And we started talking about service to the community. And she said, I think you may be interested in this position, just as sitting on the Board of Health. And I asked her, just generally what it entailed. And I thought this might be a perfect fit for me. I really wanted to have something that, I felt passionate about, where I improved and strengthened the health of the community. And because it's health centered, I felt like it was a good fit. I have a master's degree in international conflict resolution with an emphasis in health and human rights. I've done a lot of internships working on water projects and One of them was with the Economic Development and Planning Commission here in Williamsport, where I worked on a flood project, and with the Army Corps of Engineers. And I just thought that with my background and the time that I have available now, the flexibility, it would be just ideal for me to do this at this time.
That's fantastic. And Janice, good on you for turning a random phone call into.
Janice,
thank you, Liz.
This is very impressive, Janice.
Thank you. She was so much fun to talk to. I thought, geez, she's perfect for this.
Yeah, you know, she should come visit more often. Anyway, well, that's fantastic. And it does sound like your background will lend itself well to service on the board, Maren. Randy, Eric, do you have any questions for Maren? For Ms. Desaulniers?
Oh, Maren's fine.
Well, I know you personally, and then I realized, of course, that I was doing that thing that where I wasn't addressing you by a proper name, as I've done to the team. So sorry. Would you have any questions for her anyway?
I don't have any questions. You're well qualified, and I'm glad you're volunteering for this. It is an important position that we haven't always been able to keep that board filled, but you know, we know now how important it is to have a functioning Board of Health in our community. So
sure.
you know, we're looking forward to that, and you're a very outgoing, engaging person. So I think that helps in those kinds of circumstances, especially. So thank you for coming forward and
Sure.
and having that conversation with Janice.
All right, Eric, anything further to add?
Just that I do appreciate seeing another Arcadia alumni in the community getting involved.
What?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I graduated from there in 2008.
Oh my gosh.
Started in 2004, but wonderful school, beautiful campus, and with your international conflict resolution background, I mean, that's a great place for international studies. That's why I went there as well. So.
Oh, yeah. I think I graduated in 2006, so we just missed each other there.
All right. All right. Well, it looks as though you'll be in good company then, Maren, here in the halls of.
I look forward to it. I really look forward to it.
All right. Excellent. Okay. Then we will look forward to representing you to City Council on Thursday, and I think we can conclude our interviews. Thanks for coming, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you, everyone. Nice meeting all of you.
You're welcome.
Okay. As far as the rest of our agenda goes, we're going to switch a couple items around. So we're going to take items 3 and 4 here next in line. So we'll move on to item number 3, a resolution accepting a contract with Paytime for online human resources and payroll services. Molly?
Thank you for moving us up on the agenda. We have Ryan Strickler on the call. He's from Paytime. Dan Burns was on the call from BSNA, but unfortunately he had to leave. So any specific questions for him, we can follow up with. So with regard to Paytime, so the current system that the city uses for payroll and tracking employee data was installed in the 1990s, and it is no longer supported by the software vendor. So that means that if that system were to go down, we would lose all of that data and history, not be able to pay bills, not be able to run payroll, not be able to pay our pensioners. So it's been the goal of the mayor to upgrade that system. We've been looking at several different companies, altogether about 8 companies. We have had proposals from and ultimately landed on Paytime for its functionality and its price. So it will be, I'm really looking forward to it. Right now we have paper timesheets. The new system will allow us to have electronic timesheets, punching in and out from cell phones. There will be real-time data that we will all be able to look at. There will be performance reviews on there so that we can do electronic performance reviews. We've never had that process. Electronic workers' compensation tracking, W-2 issuance, payroll, recruiting, and onboarding on there. We can have new hires fill out forms online instead of filling out paper forms. So it's really going to bring us into the 21st century. So we've been working with DCED to secure funding for the project, and our source there said that they will cover 70% of the first year costs and implementation costs. And let me just pull up those resolutions so I can remind myself of the amounts. So for implementation costs for pay time, it would be $3,500, and then $28,248 for annual fees. So again, DCD would cover 70%, and we would be seeking the other 30% out of ARPA. And I and Ryan are happy to answer any questions.
All right. Just to take care of the financial stuff real quick, Molly, it looks like then we're looking for about an $8,000 transfer out of ARPA for this.
Yes.
Is the administration proposing to take that from which category? Lost revenue? Do you know?
We're working with Tracy on that right now, Councilwoman Mealy. So
okay,
I'll have that for you for Thursday. Tracy, unfortunately, is not here today. She'll be here tomorrow. So I'll have that for Thursday evening.
okay, got it. It would be my suggestion that we might think about taking this out of the general fund budget. It will be in the general fund budget come 2024. And I think to begin to see the impact of that this year, perhaps we should budget both of the 30% of both of these items out of the general fund instead. But that's, a discussion for you and Tracy. Anyway, Randy and Eric, what questions do you have on these items? Otherwise,
I do not have any questions. Biters has been using Paytime for probably about 6 or 7 years. I'm very familiar with the system. We actually just upgraded last year to the full suite. So we have all the onboarding done, performance reviews, everything done online. It's a great system, and we've been very pleased with it. So I'm very glad to see that the city has come up with that as well.
Great. Thank you so much. That's good to hear.
that actually was one of my questions, is whether or not we've looked at other companies / governments our size that use a suite like this. But it sounds as though Biters may not be quite the same size as the city. I'm not sure, frankly, Eric, but there are other entities that are satisfied with the performance of the program. And I'm assuming we've got references out the wazoo, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Tracy Rash is the other municipalities with which she has worked. They provided a lot of input and helped us land on that decision as well.
As did UHY as well. We reached out to them also.
Okay.
They had input.
Good. Let me see. A couple of questions that I had. Well, Randy, do you have questions? I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a couple. On page 7, item 8, it's a very small paragraph. Service changes. Paytime may modify the terms, conditions, and fees of this agreement at any time within 30 days written notice to client. Is that a standard clause in
We did have Austin look at both agreements, and he was satisfied with that. So I didn't question it.
Okay.
I can follow up with him if you'd like.
Or maybe Ryan could address that, Councilman. You're muted, Ryan. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all for your time here this afternoon. Yeah, with that part in there, we look at our pricing on a yearly basis. Obviously, we are a for-profit business, so we evaluate what our costs are for doing business on whether or not we would have a price increase. I've been with the company for 15 years. We've never had a price increase in that time, where in the middle of the year where it popped up in 30 days. So to reference what the agreement says, have I ever seen it? No. We actually, during the pandemic, because of what makes us a little different than some of the national providers is that we are local to the Pennsylvania area. We're based out of Mechanicsburg, right outside of Harrisburg. And we are privately owned. Our owner who started the business 30 years ago, he believes in the community. So we actually, for 3 years during the whole pandemic, we did not increase our costs whatsoever. So there's not too many other service industries that can also state that they did the same thing there. So in short, though, to answer your question, we do have the capability of increasing the cost. Typically, it only happens on a yearly basis, which again, we typically give about a quarter notice if that does occur.
Okay, thank you. That's just, I just wondered, needed that clarity, because I'm not that familiar with all these all the contractual language, of course. If you don't do it all the time, it's sometimes can be raise questions. The other question I have is, okay, in Exhibit A, there's a lot of fees and the fee structure and all of that. That's included in the base contract?
Yes, everything from the proposal is included in the totals that Molly provided there.
Okay. This is basically.
There's no miscellaneous, no miscellaneous fees, no pop-up quarterly fees, nothing like that at all.
Okay. Oh, those are the only two questions I had. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Randy. Yeah, I would agree with Randy that the only thing that really stuck out to me was that the contract itself seemed perhaps a little weighted in pay times direction versus in the direction of the client. But I would assume, do we, to that, to Randy's question about Section 8 there, does the city also have the right to modify terms and conditions? Obviously not fees. The fees, I'm assuming, go one way only. But the 30-day written notice, if the city wanted to modify, wanted to change, say, drop some element of service or add some element of service, that would also be on 30 days notice to pay time?
Yes, it would.
Okay, got it. And I did see a lot of different things that well, actually, so first off, Molly, help me. Are we Schedule 1 or Schedule 2? Are we utilizing pay time check service?
Yes.
Okay, and how does that work?
So what would happen with that is, it's easier for basically the reason to do that is to make the back end for the books smoother. So what will happen is that 2 days prior to the check date, pay time will do an ACH draw from the city's account for any live checks. And then that gets deposited into a pay time account where the live checks will then be drawn. So that way, instead of having, let's say, 100 live checks and having to go through the process of all those being from when they're cashed to coming off the books, this way it's one lump sum.
Right, got it. And what does that look like? I'm assuming are most of our employees at this point direct deposit, Molly?
Yes.
Okay. What does it look like if someone is getting a paper check and they lose it? To whom do they apply? What? Pardon me?
Everyone will be direct deposit on this.
Everyone is direct deposit. Okay, there is no option to be. Okay, all right. Then there's not. Then the whole concept of when a check gets cashed and when it comes out of the account is kind of a non-issue then, I suppose. Speaking as a business where a lot of people still get paper checks and many of them get lost, including mine. And, I thought that was okay. So, and that is not a problem for any of our employees, right? We don't have unbanked employees, anything like that have, okay, good. I didn't want to be forcing anybody into a financial situation they weren't comfortable with. And I think Paytime does take care of all quarterly reporting in terms of in terms of our taxes. We provide that base info though. Yes, I'm just trying to sort of make sure we're comfortable providing all of this basic information, right? We have a system in place, where we will have a system in place here shortly for vetting payroll from between different departments, so that
Yes.
all of that happens and is taken care of, and there won't be any room for that to somehow break down on our end, correct?
Yep, that'll be better as well, because there'll be better reporting capabilities.
Okay, what is our system for vetting payroll?
It's called Fundware,
Okay,
which when we talked to the different companies and told them that we had Fundware, they all laughed.
Okay.
So,
Got it. So you're saying our current payroll system is called Fundware?
yes,
I guess what I'm asking is, Paytime says that we need every 2 weeks, 2 days before payroll, 2 days before our payroll drops, we need to approve our payroll, right? The hours. How is that going to happen within the city? Each individual department will look at their departments. Okay, and then
Yes,
all
yes.
of it will come to you, Molly, for final approval before it goes to.
It will go to supervisors and then to finance ultimately.
Okay, got it. And finance will be the final arbiter of, right? Okay. And obviously, financially speaking, we will be in a position to make certain that we maintain the sort of balances in our accounts that allow Paytime to draw out the ACH payments. I guess the only reason I'm asking is there were some hefty fees in there for having insufficient funds in our accounts. But I would presume that will not happen. Okay, I think my only other questions were sort of general. Talk to me a bit, Derek and or Molly. I think that I'm assuming none of these, as we even heard from the representative, none of these fees are fixed long-term or even for the next 2 or 3 years, correct?
Correct, not the implementation fees, just the annual service fees will be ongoing.
Right, but those fees can change on an annual basis. Okay, we haven't negotiated any sort of fixed rate for anything.
Correct.
So we're looking then at about $80,000 in the 2024 budget. Do we have any mechanism for evaluating that compared to what we're currently investing in the city, in calculating payroll and dealing with financial software, that both packages put together?
Yeah,
I guess.
well, it's sort of hard to quantify. I mean, right now, our supervisors and employees spend an inordinate amount of time doing paper and pencil, where this will allow us, obviously, to streamline it much more efficiently, instead of the whole paper and pencil, and it's going back and forth, and it's hard to track, and and all of that. And then as far as Fundware, to Molly's point earlier, and Tracy mentioned it, I mean, if that system was to go down today or tomorrow or whenever, we're sort of, we're in big trouble, because it's not supported. There's no upgrades to it. Nobody even touches that system anymore. So that's why we are sort of trying to expedite this to get all of this transferred over to Paytime, into a system that is supported. It's going to save all of us a lot of time. Probably, it's hard to say if it's probably well over $80,000 worth of savings. We calculated all of our hours that we put into, emailing time cards, and police has a 6-month sheet that they go back 6 months and look at by hand. It's a little crazy. So we've done all of that. We've looked into all of that. Tracy's done a ton of work on this. Molly's done a lot of work. We all have. We've sat through a lot of different demonstrations from the 8 different softwares we looked at. We've reached out to municipalities, and so we've probably been looking at this for well over a year now to try to make sure we had the right system.
Great. And I'm excited to see us moving on it. I think I'm just sort of asking about the financial impact, because I have the sense from discussions with you, Derek, and with Molly and with Tracy, that we are right, that we are going to see an immense benefit from this that will more than justify the annual expenditure. Because it also sounds to me like we will be able to have, say, one less person in the finance office, because so much of this stuff is happening because this software is making things so much easier for us to deal with in the finance office. So I guess that was kind of part of what I was asking. But anyway, no, it's certainly very exciting, and I didn't see any sort of showstopper clauses in the agreement, although as I did say, there are a lot of responsibilities on the part of the city compared to, and a lot of restrictions on the part of the city compared to pay time, but that's not that unexpected, given that it's all our data that it's relying on. Okay, Randy and Eric, if you don't have anything further, then I think we can conclude this. Okay, all right. Then if it's okay, we'll move on to the next item. Item number 4, a resolution accepting a contract with BS&A software for online financial management services. Molly?
So I can't speak as intelligently as Tracy would about the benefits of this system. We again we looked at a lot of different systems. Tracy was really excited about this software for our financial records keeping, accounts payable, accounts receivable, ability to run analytic reports. There will be electronic workflow for approvals. There will be real-time access to budget and spending data that the department heads and city council and ultimately the taxpayers will be able to see. There will be dashboards that it will show. Tracy was basically drooling about this system. She said it looked so great. So again, all of our financial data is held within Fundware. And again, that system goes down, we would lose all of that history and ability to function.
And there will be a way to import that data over. Sorry to interrupt you, Molly. Okay.
Yes.
So even though nobody works with Fundware.
Correct.
We
Yeah,
can get
that's
the
a great
data off of it.
question. Yeah.
Okay.
That was one of
Right.
yeah, our key points. And also BS&A is specific to municipalities. Some of the systems we looked at were great, but they didn't necessarily work with the setup of municipalities. So BS&A did fulfill that as well. So there will be a lot of work that will go into migrating that data over, but it is doable. So, it might be a year or so until we actually get this system up and running, but we'll work as quickly as we can. So for this platform, we're looking at $137,045 for implementation fees and $53,895 for annual service fees.
Okay, great. And that is there an additional fee for like customer service? It looked through the agreement as though there might be. It said it was included for the first year, but then
that is one I can't answer off the top of my head. I could ask Dan Burns. He had to get off of the call.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, and I'm sorry that we missed him. We had a lot of front-loaded items on today's agenda. That doesn't usually happen. I guess my only other question regarding the fees was, so there's a financial management, then there's community development. Is that like CDBG, community development block grant?
Ultimately, that was not going to be imminent, like maybe down the road, we'll look at that, but that wasn't one of our priorities, but that is an option that we could add.
Oh, well, it's built into the annual fees. That's why I was asking.
Okay.
And so, which come out to that $53,000. And it's a substantial amount of money, I guess. He won't be with us on Thursday, correct? The representative?
Yes.
Oh, he will? Okay. Yeah, because I guess those two, the BS&A online, like permit application stuff, I had a question about, and then what the building department element is as well. Yeah, and then just that whether or not there were any outside fees that we might incur either on a per time basis or on an annual basis, because it looked as though there was at least this tech service fee kind of. Do we have any idea historically, Molly, how much rates for both of these contracts, both of these companies have risen over the last couple of years? I mean, I know that we've been sort of in an inflationary free fall or free rise here for the last couple of months, but.
Ryan's still on, Councilwoman.
Okay.
Pay time, so.
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, over the pandemic, we did not have any price increases. Prior to that, on average, or any increase that we did have was at or below 3%. From there, and then obviously this year was an outlier with everything that has been going on. Our increase this year, this past year, was 6%.
Got it. But you don't foresee that as a likelihood over the next couple of years? Was that like we think it was a one-time, that you hadn't raised anything in so long, and right? Pardon?
Yeah, it wasn't even a matter of just the fact of not raising over 3 years. It was more the fact of the cost of from our vendors and the cost of doing business increased so much that we did have to make it larger than typical. Obviously, we weren't trying to catch up from what we didn't increase in prior years.
Right.
But yes, I do see that as more of an outlier. I think more of, as long as the economy kind of stays the way that it is and looks like over the next few years, I think that more of the 2 to 4% would be a better kind of budget item than it would be a 6% or higher.
Got it. Sounds good. So I guess it sounds then like for the purposes of the budget, Derek, we should be budgeting about a 3% increase on this item, on these two different fees annually, but we'll have to discuss that with the representative on Thursday from BSNA.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Ryan.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. All right. Randy, Eric, what questions do you have on this item? I'm sorry for dominating the floor there.
So what I would question first, considering the cost of pay time on a year-over-year basis and the cost of BSA, we're looking at just over $82,000 for next year's budget. How is that going to be allocated? Are we going to do something like we did with IT services, where each department gets billed, or with City Hall allocation or so on, or is it going to come out of one particular place?
No, most likely, yeah, it'll be spread out over across the departments. I'll double check with Tracy for Thursday. She'll be there Thursday. But yes, from my understanding right now, it would be spread out across the departments, seeing as obviously all departments would utilize this.
So it sounds, Eric, like it might be something that's built into like the City Hall operating fund or something like that. Or into the contract services for IT.
Yep.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question. Excuse me. Under in Exhibit A at the tail end. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Well, I can't get a page number up, but it talks about the cloud modules and the fees for the different ledgers and accounts payable, but it gets down to community development. Under community development, it talks about permit application feature enables contractors and the general public to submit permit applications online. Is that going to be rolled into codes, or is that what that's talking about?
I think ultimately it will be. Again, that was something that would not be, the first part of implementation. So we could discuss that down the road if we do want to go that way. But I can ask Dan on Thursday to address specifically what the community development functionality would be.
Okay, because I mean, I think that's an absolutely essential piece to have. We've needed that for a while, that people can submit permits and pay online. And we haven't been able to do that because we didn't have the software or the capability of that. But I just wanted to make sure that would go to the right place. And the other thing I noticed was $24,000, $24,230 for travel expenses. So it looks like there's going to be a lot of on-site interaction. Is that correct? Okay. which is good. I mean, we want to have as much of that front loaded as possible to alleviate the hard questions popping up. There's always going to be an adjustment period, but hopefully we can mitigate that under that part.
Yes.
That's great. And just one other piece, Councilman Allison, is we have our permit forms online right now, just as a PDF. We didn't have them be able to submit at this point due to the lack of, we didn't have the software on the back end, the financial software that could support it. And so it could be another, and we're talking with Dan on this, where we have the forms, now we have financial software, obviously it's up to date, supports it, and we could do it that way. And then look at the community development module once we get the the rest of the city in place, because obviously the community development is different with their finances a little bit. So
yeah,
but Dan will be able to answer all of that on Thursday. Thursday.
Great. Okay. Thanks. That's all I have.
Great, thanks, Randy. And Molly and Derek, I just answered my own questions about the service fees. I would still want to make sure that there are no additional fees that we could incur over and above the service fees, but in this contract, I don't know how I've missed this the first time. Any increases, the rates fixed for this year in 2024, this coming year in 2024, and then rates will only increase by the related to the consumer price index. So that's and tech support is included in that maintenance fee. So I figured those parts out. So the only question will be, are there any fees over and above that we would be exposed to? Are there additional training fees if we for staff turnover, as there are in the pay time contract? And then to Randy's point, just some of the particulars of some of those items in the annual service category.
Okay.
But anyway, if there are no other questions relating to this item, are there, guys? Then we'll look forward to talking to the rep, I guess, a little further on Thursday. But it's certainly exciting to see these packages coming to us for, yeah, very, very, very exciting, since that makes it seem we're and this financial software, correct me if I'm wrong, that this won't debut for another 18 months, correct?
That's right.
That's their guesstimate right now, is 12 to 8. It's just going to depend on their staffing, labor market, and all of that. So they're estimating that it could be a little bit sooner, but that's their guess at this point. But they're going to get started on it just as soon as they can.
Got it. And then pay time will debut. When are we hoping to bring that?
April 1.
Yeah, that'll be April 1st of 23.
Got it. All right, excellent. So that's a much shorter time frame then. Okay. All right, then we'll move on to item number 2, which Derek, I'm assuming you're handling.
Yes,
resolution to correct the 2022 budget ordinance 6421 for the city of Williamsport. All right, go for it.
Yep. This is just a simple formality, and this is just to update this current year's budget ordinance. Initially, it stated that the total appropriations for the capital projects fund were $2,933,000, and the actual amount is $1,090,000. And so all this resolution does, we talked to Austin White, and he said just to do this resolution just to correct the amount to reflect the actual amount of what the capital projects fund ended up being for calendar year 2022. So it's just noting that from $2,933,000 to $1,090,000 for this calendar year.
Got it. Yeah. In other words, we're basically making it slightly easier for the auditors to figure out where the money went whenever they do get to 2022.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. All right. Yeah, that seems like a pure formality, really, to me. And we are obviously certain at this late date in 2022 that there will be no further expenditures out of the capital projects budget. Correct, Eric?
That's what, according to Tracy, she said that right there is the final amount.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions from you guys, gentlemen? All right, crickets out there.
Yeah.
In that case, Derek, I don't think that any of us have any real concerns about that item. If that is the amount that we spent, and I think that Tracy would probably have a slightly better idea of that than we are likely to, then the amendment is obviously in order. If actually the one question that does come to mind, Derek, only because somebody was asking me about it the other day, was what is going on with Willow Street?
So we actually are going to meet after the new year. I'll keep City Council apprised. John's been working with Dewberry and PennDOT, Pine Ridge and DeSalvos and everybody else, stakeholders in that area to make sure that we're all coordinating. And so what we decided was to just have a meeting after the new year so that we're all on the same page and moving forward, so that we're not obviously cutting up streets multiple times, and if there's any utilities that need done, that we're all on the same page. So we're going to have probably a relatively large meeting sometime after the new year to keep that project and the others in that area moving forward. And I'll keep council. I'll let you all know once we solidify a date.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Just for whatever reason, people have been asking me about that one in particular, and since we let the contract to Dewberry to do the design so long ago, I thought, geez, it's been a minute. Anyway, but there are a number of moving parts over there. But yes, it would be good if you could keep us surprised there.
Sure.
Otherwise, I don't think, as I said, that there are any particular questions on this item. So hearing nothing, we will move on to any related items. Does anyone have anything else to introduce before we close this meeting? All right, hearing nothing, I will.
I have a quick question.
Oh, sure. No, I don't know whether there's a delay or something like that. I feel as though, yeah. Okay, what can I do for you, or what can we do for you? Or do you want to bring up?
No, it was a question that was presented to me by a local business, the Sims Agency. They had asked for some help. They were trying to quote the city on their workers' comp liability, and they were asking for some information. I was just curious as to why we were not engaging when we could potentially be saving some money versus our current carrier.
Yeah, Molly's working through it. I think she's still on, but yes, Molly's met with a number of insurance agencies, and I believe she is planning on meeting with Sims as well. And so we did earlier in the year, I forget, what was it, Molly, the life insurance?
Yep, we did reduce the life insurance premiums and slightly the dental premiums that the employees pay. The health insurance is a huge undertaking because every department has a different plan. We did move the fire and police retirees to a new plan and significantly reduced those premiums, and that was difficult. There were multiple meetings and questions, and it was a task. So what I will specify to each of the brokers that I will meet with is that the plans cannot change. That would just open up a can of worms with regard to the unions. So I have met with one company who assured us that they can get us the same exact setup and significantly reduce the costs. We're paying Benecon. We're part of that consortium, so to speak, with Benecon. And while we do get money back, we get a surplus money back of money that we do not spend since we're self-funded at the end of the year. We need to look at that and say, is that is getting that money back worth the extra premiums that we're paying? And what the brokers are saying is that is not the case. So we're kind of at that step now, but I will definitely add Sims Agency to the list.
Yeah,
Molly, Sims is actually workers' comp.
Oh,
they're not. They're not interested in the healthcare.
Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry. I have listened to the question. So yeah, workers' comp. Sims approached us. We had already started the process for the next year with providing them for the data to renew the contract. So it was sort of a late question, but next year I invited them to reach out to me mid-year And we can start providing that data that they need to be able to do the quote.
I think the short answer, Eric, is right, that when things are functioning well, we start the renewal of the insurance policy process in the city about 6 months before the end of the year. And so we to begin conversations about shopping out that insurance piece, we will need, and I believe, Derek, that you had committed to basically RFPing our insurance services with the possible exception of health insurance in this coming calendar year, correct?
That's correct, yep.
Right. So yes, that's the answer for Sims, Eric.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Because yeah, this year with everything else going on, it was just a little complicated, I think, to issue an RFP for those insurance services, but we'll be doing it next year. Okay. Anything else to add to that discussion, anybody? All right, any other items? Okay, hearing nothing, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank
thanks
you
a
all.
lot, guys. Yeah,
Okay.
thanks, Molly, thanks, Derek, and thanks, everyone, for your hard work on these new finance contracts, especially, or this new finance software and payroll software. We will see you on Thursday.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.